Ghoul, an anime series created by Sui Ishida. The story explores a world where ghouls that look human but must consume human flesh to survive, hidden among the population and constantly hunted by a government agency called the Commission of Counter Ghoul, or the CCG. Late in the afternoon, our timid protagonist Ken Kaneki goes on a date with the enigmatic and beautiful Rizz Kamishiro, unaware that this encounter will change his life forever. The two bond over their shared love for literature, with Kaneki feeling an unfamiliar comfort in Rise's presence. As their date ends, Rise confides her fear of the recent ghoul attacks in the city, prompting Kaneki to offer to walk her home for her safety. As they walk through a dimly lit alley, Kaneki confesses his feelings for Rise, and she seemingly reciprocates. However, Rise's intentions are far from innocent. She reveals her true nature as a ghoul, and attacks Kaneki with sadistic delight. He tries desperately to escape, but she overpowers him, throwing him against a wall and leaving him helpless. Just as Rise is about to devour him, fate intervenes. A bundle of steel beams falls from above, crushing Rise and saving Kaneki's life at the last possible moment. As Kaneki drifts in and out of consciousness, he hears the doctors discussing the procedure, unaware of the profound transformation taking place within him. When Kaneki awakens, he quickly discovers that he can no longer eat normal human food. Every attempt to eat results in violent rejection, and the news confirms his worst fears. Ghouls are unable to consume anything but human flesh. The horrifying realization dawns on him, and he has become the very monster he once feared. His best friend, Hideyoshi Nagachika, grows concerned about Kaneki's isolation, but Kaneki refuses any visitors. Wandering the city in a daze, Kaneki is tormented by the scent of human flesh all around him, struggling desperately to suppress his new, monstrous hunger. In a moment of despair, he even tries to stab himself, hoping to deny the reality of his existence, but his body has already changed beyond recognition. Drawn by an irresistible aroma reminiscent of his mother's cooking, Kaneki stumbles upon a corpse being devoured by another ghoul named Kazuo. Kazuo offers Kaneki a share, but another ghoul, Nishiki Nishio, appears and kills Kazuo, claiming the territory as his own. Nishiki suffocates Kaneki, suspecting him of trespassing. Just as Kaneki is about to be killed, Toka Kirishima, also a ghoul, intervenes and orders Nishiki to leave, asserting her claim over the area. Nishiki was pissed and attacks Toka, but she was stronger than him, giving Nishiki a lot of bruises, and he runs. Kaneki remains tormented by his hunger and the horror of consuming human flesh.
No way, no way, no way, no way! There's no way that I can ever eat another person's flesh! Well, I won't, cause I'm a human!
Seeing his suffering, Toka forcefully helps Kaneki take his first bite. Kaneki remains in denial about his monstrous nature. He insists he's not like the other ghouls, especially Toka, who responds with anger and frustration. Toka, hardened by a life of suffering as a ghoul, can't sympathize with Kaneki's despair. To her, Kaneki's grief over his lost humanity is a luxury. She's been a ghoul since birth and never had a choice. She beats Kaneki, demanding to know what he thinks he is if not a monster, and reminds him that the hunger they endure is its own kind of hell. Their confrontation is interrupted by Kuzan Yoshimura, the gentle manager of Anteku Cafe. He stops Toka, inviting Kaneki inside and offering him coffee, the only thing, besides human flesh, that ghouls can enjoy. Kaneki hesitates, fearing it will taste horrible, but is surprised to find comfort in its warmth and flavor. Still, Yoshimura warns him that coffee alone can never satisfy a ghoul's hunger. He hands Kaneki an envelope, reassuring him that if he ever needs more of that, he shouldn't hesitate to ask. The next morning, Kaneki decides to return to university. His best friend, Hideyoshi, is overjoyed to see him back. Hideyoshi brings Kaneki along to Nishiki's office, but when they got to the door, Nishiki was having sex with a woman. The woman was terrified and ran away. Hideyoshi is searching for some data, but it's not there. Nishiki says it's at his place and invites him over to his house. Kaneki was fearful for Hideyoshi's safety since Hideyoshi doesn't know Nishiki as a ghoul, so he insists on coming along. Under a bridge, Nishiki suddenly attacks, kicking Hideyoshi aside and confronting Kaneki. He accuses Kaneki of wanting to eat Hideyoshi, taunting him with the question of when and which part he'll consume. But Kaneki said that his friend is not a food. Nishiki beats Kaneki mercilessly, but Kaneki refuses to let his friend be harmed. In desperation, Kaneki's Kagune, a ghoul weapon, manifests, and he attacks Nishiki with a ferocity that surprises Nishiki because Kaneki's Kagune was Rise's Kagune. Rise tempts him to devour Hideyoshi. Because of hunger, Kaneki nearly gives in, but Toka arrives just in time. She coldly tells him to go ahead and eat Hideyoshi if he wants, warning that he'll regret it forever if he does. Kaneki loses consciousness and wakes up back in Anteku. Yoshimura shows him that Hideyoshi is safe and Kaneki didn't eat him, though he still tastes blood on his lips. Yoshimura admits that while Kaneki slept, They fed him to keep his hunger at bay, otherwise, he might have killed his friend. Overwhelmed with guilt and loneliness, Kaneki breaks down, feeling like he doesn't belong in either world. But Yoshimura gently reassures him. As someone who is both human and ghoul, Kaneki can move between both worlds. He invites Kaneki to work at Anteku, promising that in time, Kaneki will find his own answers and decide for himself whether them are truly monsters. Kaneki accepts the offer and Yoshimura is gonna teach him to make their best coffee, while Hideyoshi overhears everything pretended to be unconscious. After Yoshimura taught Kaneki how to make coffee, Kaneki went downstairs to assist Toka with her work. Shortly after, Hideyoshi stopped by the cafe to thank Toka for her help, then promptly left. Toka warned Kaneki that Hideyoshi must never discover their ghoul identities, or they would have to kill him, leaving Kaneki on edge. Ryoko and Hinami Fueguchi, a mother and daughter, arrived at the cafe and sought out Yoshimura. Later, Yoshimura asked Kaneki to work a late shift, as Toka was busy with college exams. Kaneki initially refused, unwilling to kill humans because Yoshimura wants Kaneki to food shopping. Yoshimura reassured him that they acquire their food without killing. Intrigued, Kaneki questioned how they obtained their food, leading Yoshimura to instruct him to meet with Yomo to uncover the answer. Yomo took Kaneki to a cliff. When Kaneki placed his hand on a metal beam, it weakened, causing him to fall. He was saved by his Kagune, only to find a human corpse at the cliff's base. Yomo explained that these were people who had given up on life and chose to end it, revealing that Anteku consumed the bodies of those who had committed suicide. Meanwhile, CCG investigator Kureo Mato, while undercover in ghoul territory, was attacked by a ghoul, whom he swiftly defeated. Kureo questioned the ghoul about a certain item, but the ghoul was unable to answer and was killed. Yoshimura told Kaneki that he needed a mask. Yoshimura asked Toka to accompany Kaneki to Yuta's shop, despite her initial refusal. Yoshimura explained that 2 CCG investigators were active in the 20th ward, emphasizing the need for Kaneki to conceal his identity. Toka reluctantly agreed. At Yuta's shop, Yuta took Kaneki's measurements for the mask. On their way home, Kaneki asked Toka about Hinami, expressing his desire to help. Toka revealed that Hinami had been forced to leave with Ryoko, leaving her father behind. Kaneki then inquired about the purpose of the masks, to which Toka replied that they were used to evade detection by CCG investigators. The CCG continued to eliminate ghouls who were ignorant about the item they were seeking. Kaneki attempted to speak with Hinami, but she was eating, which startled him, so he left. Koma provided Kaneki with coffee to give to Hinami, as a means for Kaneki to apologize for intruding on her private space. Kaneki delivered the coffee and apologized. As Kaneki was about to leave, Hinami asked him what he truly was, and Kaneki responded that he was both human and ghoul. Sharing a love for literature, the two found common ground and bond together. Tsukiyama went to Anteku and noticed Kaneki there, but he left shortly after. Despite this, Tsukiyama became interested in Kaneki. Toka warned Kaneki to be careful around Tsukiyama because he was a dangerous person. At school, while Kaneki was reading, Tsukiyama approached him and they talked about books and Rizz. Tsukiyama invited Kaneki to have coffee with him the next day. Even though Toka warned Kaneki, he agreed to go. After Kaneki's shift, Yomo wanted to talk to him. They went to a secluded place where Yomo told Kaneki that since there was a CCG investigator roaming the 20th ward, Kaneki needed to protect himself. Yomo attacked Kaneki and easily knocked him down, then suggested that from now on, Kaneki would train with him after work. Afterward, Yomo took Kaneki to his friend Atori, who had something to tell Kaneki. Atori gave Kaneki some blood and threw it in his face so Kaneki could see that he was truly a one-eyed ghoul. Atori apologized and instead gave Kaneki coffee. Atori wondered if other one-eyed ghouls in the 20th ward were like Kaneki, which surprised Kaneki and made him curious about his half-ghoul peers. Atori asked Kaneki what he thought would happen if a human and a ghoul fell in love. Kaneki guessed their child might be half-ghoul and half-human. Atori said such children usually die because humans and ghouls are incompatible, but a small percentage survive, like Kaneki himself. Atori added that half-breed ghouls are stronger than full-breed ghouls, but their ghoul eye is on the right side, unlike Kaneki's, which is on the left. Kaneki asked Atori if he knew anything about Rizz because he had no information about her after recent events. Atori said Rizz was always causing trouble and that her death was a mystery. Kaneki thought it was an accident, but Atori said there are some rumors that someone was on top of the building when Rizz died, though they didn't know if it was true. The next morning, Kaneki met Tsukiyama and asked what kind of things he and Rizz used to talk about. Tsukiyama said they talked about literature and fine dinings. However, he remembered how Rizz insulted his taste in food, which made him break his cup. Kaneki tried to help Tsukiyama but got hurt. Tsukiyama told Kaneki about a place Rizz often visited, and Kaneki agreed to go with him. Kaneki's wound stopped bleeding, so Tsukiyama took his handkerchief, even though it still had Kaneki's blood on it. In the bathroom, Tsukiyama became obsessed with Kaneki and smelled his blood. Kaneki arrived at the place Rizz used to visit and the maid gave him coffee. He asked the maid where Tsukiyama was, but she didn't answer and left. Suddenly, the room darkened, and Kaneki didn't realize Tsukiyama had taken him to an auction hall. He realized he was trapped and forced to fight Taro. Kaneki ran from Taro until he was cornered. He dodged Taro's repeated slashes, almost getting cut. Kaneki tried to kick Taro, but it had no effect. Tsukiyama waited for Kaneki to use his Kagune. Kaneki slipped on spilled blood and Taro kicked him away. Taro was delighted and strangled Kaneki tightly, but Kaneki used his strength to break free and punch Taro. The crowd was shocked to see Kaneki as a one-eyed ghoul, as well as Tsukiyama. Taro stood up, intending to kill Kaneki, but Tsukiyama stabbed Taro in the back. Tsukiyama apologized for bringing Kaneki there and he finished Taro because he didn't want Kaneki, who was a legend, to be wasted. Tsukiyama apologized to Kaneki and told him to forget what had happened. As Kaneki was walking, he noticed Nishiki being beaten up. Unable to ignore the situation, he rushed in to help, especially since the attackers were going too far. A man tried to stop Kaneki, saying they were going to eat Nishiki because they were ghouls too. Kaneki skillfully dodged their punches and kicks, and to his own surprise, he managed to knock the man down. Even he couldn't believe he had actually defeated him. Kaneki helped Nishiki return home. When they arrived, Kimi was visibly worried. Nishiki often came home injured, and it broke her heart. She was angry at Kaneki, still remembering how he had stabbed Nishiki before, but Nishiki told her to let it go and went to sleep. Kaneki asked Kimi why she was with a ghoul even though she was human. Kimi quietly replied that she loved Nishiki. She admitted that even though he hurt others and killed people to survive, she was okay with it, as long as he never harmed her family. Then, Kimi asked Kaneki what she could do to help Nishiki. Kaneki explained that Nishiki needed human flesh to survive, otherwise, he could die. Kimi didn't know how to handle that reality, so Kaneki promised her he'd find a way to help. Later, Kimi was kidnapped by Tsukiyama. Kaneki tried to find something at Anteku that could help Nishiki, but came up empty. Then, he saw a letter on the window. It was from Tsukiyama. The note revealed that Tsukiyama had taken Kimi. Soon after, there was a knock at the door. It was Nishiki, worried because Kimi hadn't come home. When he saw the letter, his face twisted with anger. He knew Tsukiyama was dangerous. Kaneki told him that Tsukiyama really wanted him, not Kimi. He promised Nishiki that he would accept Tsukiyama's invitation and bring Kimi back. But Nishiki insisted on coming along. He refused to just sit and do nothing while Kimi was caught in the middle of all this. They eventually arrived at the church where Tsukiyama was holding Kimi. Nishiki demanded that Tsukiyama release her, but Tsukiyama refused. He wanted Kaneki to devour Kimi. Tsukiyama blamed Kaneki for his obsession, saying it was Kaneki who tempted him and drove him to this madness. Nishiki charged at Tsukiyama in anger, but Tsukiyama effortlessly struck him down. Kaneki tried to fight too, but Tsukiyama dodged his attacks and countered with brutal punches and kicks. Just as Kaneki was being overwhelmed, Toka arrived and slashed Tsukiyama's eye. The wound healed quickly, but the fight was on. Toka and Kaneki teamed up, attacking Tsukiyama together. Despite their efforts, Tsukiyama managed to overpower them both, breaking Kaneki's right arm and punching him hard. He licked Kaneki's blood off his hand and moaned in delight from its taste. Toka tried to kick him again, but Tsukiyama easily blocked her and stabbed her with his Kagune. Then he turned his attention to Kimi, intending to eat her. But as he approached, he saw the large scar on her left shoulder. In the past, after Nishiki returned home injured because of Kaneki, he lost control of his hunger. Kimi discovered his secret, that he was a ghoul. Nishiki believed that was the end for him, expecting her to report him to the CCG, just like what happened to his sister. But instead, Kimi didn't say a word. She offered her shoulder and told him to bite her. Back in the present, Nishiki charged at Tsukiyama once again, reckless, desperate to protect the woman he loved. But Tsukiyama stabbed him and knocked him unconscious. Still, Nishiki refused to give up. Even as Tsukiyama repeatedly stabbed him without mercy, he clung to him, trying to protect Kimi. Kaneki asked Toka who would win in a fight between her and Tsukiyama if both were at full strength. She said they were evenly matched. That gave Kaneki an idea. He called out to Tsukiyama and offered him a sight he couldn't ignore, Toka eating a small piece of Kaneki's flesh. Tsukiyama snapped in fury because Kaneki belonged only to him. Enraged, he attacks, but Toka, now fully revitalized from Kaneki's flesh, blocked him with ease. Toka launched a surprise attack on Tsukiyama, tearing into him with her Kagune and wounding him badly, knocking him to the ground. But instead of being angry, Tsukiyama was delighted. He hadn't seen this level of power from Toka in a long time. His wounds healed quickly, and the battle continued. They clashed fiercely, but Toka ultimately overpowered him and sent him flying. Knowing he couldn't defeat Toka in his current state, Tsukiyama set his sights on Kimi, intending to eat a piece of her to regain his strength. But Nishiki, though weakened, still had enough strength and consciousness to stop him. Tsukiyama viciously kicked Nishiki, trying to get him out of the way. But that distraction proved costly. Toka seized the opportunity and severed Tsukiyama's right arm, defeating him for good. Nishiki rushed to help Kimi, but Toka stopped him. She insisted on handling Kimi herself. In Toka's eyes, Kimi was now a threat. She knew their secret, that they were ghouls, and she planned to kill her. But Kaneki intervened. He reminded Toka that Kimi was just like Hideyoshi was to him. Just like how Toka saw Yoriko. He asked her a painful question. If Yoriko were in Kimi's place right now, could you really kill her? Angry and conflicted, Toka still charged at Kimi. But Nishiki threw himself in front of her, shielding her from the attack. Kimi's blindfold had come off, and even in Toka's ghoul form, she found her beautiful. That moment of sincerity softened Toka's heart, and she turned away, walking out without another word. After the incident at the church, Nishiki decided to join Anteku. Meanwhile, Toka, shaken by what had happened, stopped coming to work for a while. Elsewhere, Hinami suddenly lashed out at her mother and locked herself in her room. Kaneki tried to speak to her but couldn't get through. Instead, he spoke with Ryoko, who explained that Hinami was upset because she missed her father and they had no idea what had become of him. In the office of Hinami's father, Asaki, a ghoul named Yamori arrived. Asaki handed Yamori an item that the CCG investigators had also been asking for among ghouls. Asaki pleaded with Yamori not to go there anymore, that he just wanted to live a peaceful life. Yamori pretended to agree, then suddenly attacked him. Later, Ryoko explained to Kaneki that Asaki had once been involved in a dangerous underworld business in the 13th ward, but gave it up when Hinami was born to focus on being a father. Back at Asaki's office, Yamori threw him out the door, where CCG investigators Mado and Amon were waiting. They immediately recognized Yamori as an S-rated ghoul from the 13th ward and drew their quinks. They fought him together, but Yamori dodged their attacks with ease. With a sadistic grin, he told them he'd play with them for 2 minutes. In a flash, he was behind Amon, landing brutal punches and kicks. Mado launched a relentless assault and believed he had finally trapped Yamori with his quink. But Yamori revealed his Kagune and shattered the weapon. With the 2 minutes up, Yamori left, uninterested in continuing. Mado tried to question Asaki, but the desperate father used his own ghoul powers to attack, only to be swiftly and mercilessly killed by Mado. Meanwhile, Hinami and Ryoko went out to buy a book, but Ryoko noticed CCG investigators nearby and quickly led Hinami away. Unfortunately, the agent spotted them and gave chase. Hinami suddenly caught the scent of her father and followed it, leading them into an alley where Mado and Amon had cornered them. More CCG agents surrounded them. Realizing there was no escape, Ryoko released her Kagune and attacked the investigators. She turned to Hinami and told her to run to Anteku. Hinami hesitated, terrified to leave her mother, but Ryoko promised she would follow soon. Without other choice, Hinami ran, leaving her mother behind. Kaneki noticed Hinami running across the street, panic evident in her expression. Concerned, he quickly crossed over and asked her what was wrong. Through tears, Hinami told him about her mother, and without hesitation, they both rushed to her location. Mado knew that Ryoko wasn't used to fighting because her Kagune was weak, and it irritated him how she clung to human-like behavior, sacrificing herself for her daughter. Ryoko was shocked when she realized that Mado had turned Asaki's Kagune into a Quinque. That's when the awful truth hit her. Her husband was dead. Kaneki and Hinami had arrived but hid in the shadows, unsure of what to do. Ryoko, overwhelmed with despair, could do nothing but cry, and in the end, she died. Kaneki gently covered Hinami's eyes so she wouldn't see what had happened to her mother. Hours passed. Toka returned to Anteku, only to find it closed. Looking through the other room, she saw Kaneki and the others gathered inside, sorrow heavy in the air. She walked in and asked what had happened. Yoshimura explained everything about Ryoko's death. Furious, Toka demanded to know what happened to Hinami. Yoshimura answered that Hinami was sleeping in the other room. When the time comes, he planned to move her to the 24th ward for safety. But Toka refused. She insisted that Hinami wouldn't survive on her own. In her rage, she suggested they start killing the CCG investigators one by one. Yomo calmly disagreed, explaining that even if they killed the CCG in the 20th ward now, more would simply come to replace them, and eventually, they'd all be hunted down. Kaneki blamed himself for everything that happened. Unable to accept Ryoko's death, Toka ambushed the CCG investigators. She killed Kusaba and nearly finished off Nakajima, but Amon arrived just in time to save him. Toka kicked Amon, sending him sprawling. She unleashed her Kagune, cornering Amon with fierce speed. That's when Mado appeared. Toka dodged Mado's Quinque with furious precision. Mado, taunting her, spoke cruelly about Ryoko, knowing she had been Toka's friend. Enraged, Toka attacked with everything she had, but Mado evaded her blows. While fending her off, Mado explained to Amon that ghouls with Ukaku, Kagune tend to rely on speed and rapid attacks, but their stamina is poor. If the battle dragged on, they would quickly grow weaker. Eventually, Mado knocked Toka to the ground and demanded to know where Ryoko's daughter was, intending to kill her too. Toka, enraged, charged recklessly and was wounded by Mado. Still, she managed to escape, his Quin K unable to reach her. Later, Kaneki heard a noise in the kitchen. It was Toka, battered and bleeding. Yoshimura asked if she had fought the CCG. Kaneki wanted to help her, but Yoshimura held him back, saying she had disobeyed them. Toka left, but Kaneki couldn't let it go. He followed her, insisting on treating her wounds. She resisted, but Kaneki pleaded. He didn't want to be someone who stood by and did nothing while others suffered. Mado and Amon were headed toward the water tunnel, as Mado's instincts told him that Toka and Hinami would go there. Meanwhile, Hinami sensed something outside, her nose picking up a familiar scent. Toka also heard a noise from Hinami's room and rushed there, only to find the window open and Hinami already gone. Kaneki and Toka immediately set out to search for Hinami. Hinami, now in the water tunnel, discovered a bag. When she opened it and realized what was inside, she screamed loudly in shock and horror. Kaneki and Toka heard her scream and rushed to the scene, only to find Amon already chasing after Toka. Kaneki intervened to stop Amon from getting to her. Toka spotted Hinami, who was in tears. Toka asked what happened, and Hinami replied that the bag contained her mother. Toka was stunned. She told Hinami that they needed to leave immediately, but Hinami refused. She still wanted to go to her mother. Then they heard footsteps and it was Mado. Mado was the one who had placed the dismembered remains of Hinami's mother in the bag. Enraged, Toka transformed and prepared for battle. Kaneki continued to struggle with Amon, trying to keep him from reaching Toka and Hinami, but he was overpowered. Meanwhile, Toka and Mado clashed. Toka used her speed to tangle Mado's Quin K into the surroundings, creating an opening to gain the upper hand. Both Amon and Toka fought with heavy hearts, Amon grieving for his partner Kusaba, and Toka mourning Ryoko. Amon blamed the ghouls for the world's suffering, while Toka blamed the CCG investigators. As Toka prepared to finish Mado, he revealed that he had turned Ryoko's Kagune into a Quin K and used it to push Toka back. Hinami was shocked to see her mother's Kagune used as a weapon. Kaneki, lying on the ground, questioned the world around him. Are ghouls truly the problem? Was there any logical reason Ryoko had to die? From what he had seen, ghouls feel emotions just like humans, they're not so different. But humans didn't understand that. Only Kaneki could see both sides, because he was both human and ghoul. Kaneki tried to explain to Amon that it wasn't only ghouls who were at fault, humans shared the blame too. While some ghouls had chosen a dark path, others had not. They needed to understand one another. Amon couldn't comprehend what Kaneki was saying, so Kaneki resolved to show him. Mado had Toka pinned, and he was about to take Hinami too. Kaneki stopped resisting Amon and allowed himself to be beaten, unable to find the strength to make Amon understand. But then, Kaneki activated his ghoul powers, biting Amon's right shoulder. Even though he had tasted human flesh, Kaneki retained control. He unleashed his Kagune and fought back. Amon realized that Kaneki was targeting his Quin K, and Kaneki managed to destroy it. Despite losing his weapon, Amon refused to back down. Kaneki pleaded with him to run. He was close to losing control, but Amon persisted, and Kaneki inflicted a deep wound on him. Still, Kaneki begged, not wanting to become a killer. Mado was about to kill Toka using Asaki's Kagune, but suddenly, Hinami's Kagune emerged. She severed Mado's right arm. Mado was thrilled. Hinami had inherited both her mother's and father's Kagune, and that only made him want her more. But Hinami countered his attacks, slicing one of his legs. Toka urged her to finish Mado, but Hinami refused. She didn't care about revenge. Mado stood again, determined to kill Hinami, but Toka finished him off. Elsewhere, Amon was confused. Why had Kaneki let him go? Kaneki, now losing control and acting like Rizz, attacked Yomo without realizing it was him. Yomo, understanding why Yoshimura had taken an interest in Kaneki, wanted to see what the boy would become. He calmed Kaneki down and gave him food, helping him regain control. Later, Toka removed Mado's gloves and was surprised to find a ring on his finger. Kaneki and Yomo arrived where Toka and Hinami were, and they all left together. Amon found Mado's lifeless body, and overcome with grief, he cried out in anguish. After everything that happened, Hinami stayed with Toka for a while, and little by little, her energy began to return. Life slowly started to feel normal again. Meanwhile, Kaneki went to Atori's bar to talk. He opened up about losing control and accidentally stabbing Yomo because of Rizz. Haunted by what happened, Kaneki was desperate for information about her, but even Atori didn't know much. All she could do was suggest he look into the 11th ward, Riz's original home before she moved to the 20th ward. Koma and Nishiki discussed how things had taken a dark turn in the 11th ward. Yomo had warned them that ghouls there were banding together to take on the CCG, and a war might begin. Toka, on the other hand, was quietly struggling with guilt because he killed Mado, who had a family. The group known as Aogiri Tree launched a brutal attack on one of the CCG's branch offices. A CCG investigator managed to inform Special Class Investigator Atsuki Marude about the assault, but was killed shortly after delivering the news. Back at Anteiku, a group of ghouls arrived, led by Banjo Kazuichi. They were looking for Yoshimura, but Kaneki calmly told them that he wasn't there. Toka stepped in, trying to defuse the tension, and told them that if they weren't there for a fight, they should sit down and order some coffee. Left with no choice, Banjo complied, and they began to talk. Kaneki asked what Banjo wanted from Yoshimura, offering to relay any message himself. Banjo also wanted to know if they knew Rise. He revealed he was from the 11th ward and had known Rise when she still lived there. Suddenly, Banjo caught a familiar scent. Kaneki smelled just like Rise. Confused and jealous, he asked if Kaneki was Rise's boyfriend. Overcome with emotion, Banjo started throwing punches, but Kaneki headbutted him and knocked him out cold. Meanwhile, the CCG held an emergency meeting. Marude announced grim news: the 11th ward branch had been wiped out. Not a single soul had survived the attack. A few hours later, Banjo regained consciousness. Embarrassed and regretful, he apologized to Kaneki for jumping to conclusions. He asked if Kaneki knew where Rise was now. Kaneki, hiding the truth, told him Rise had already left the 20th ward. Banjo understood, but he had one request: if Kaneki ever saw Rise again, tell her to run. Banjo then shared a disturbing story. Months ago, a gang of ghouls calling themselves Aogiri Tree appeared in the 11th ward. After wiping out every other ghoul faction, they turned their attention to the CCG. Banjo didn't know why they were searching for Rise, but he was certain it couldn't be for anything good. He warned Kaneki, they would be coming to the 20th ward next. If they didn't leave, they'd all die. Just then, Ayato Kirishima, Toka's younger brother, showed up and kicked Banjo without warning. Yamori and Nico also entered Anteiku, which surprised Banjo. He tried to tell Yamori that Rise wasn't there, but Yamori ignored him and smashed a chair into his face. Yamori had caught Rise's scent on Kaneki and realized he was the one they wanted. As they moved to take Kaneki, Toka lashed out, kicking Yamori to protect him, but Yamori was too strong. He flung Toka aside and grabbed Kaneki by the throat, beating him relentlessly. Kaneki, driven into a corner, finally unleashed his ghoul powers, catching everyone off guard. He was a one-eyed ghoul. Kaneki tried to fight back, but Yamori stabbed him with his Kagune. Toka rejoined the fight, but Ayato quickly took her down, overwhelming her with his own ghoul strength. Yamori slammed Kaneki's head against the table, then into the mirror, again and again, trying to break him, but Kaneki refused to shatter. Frustrated yet fascinated, Yamori was finally calmed by Nico. They took Kaneki and left for the 11th ward. When Yoshimura and Yomo returned to Anteiku, they were met with a horrifying scene: blood everywhere, and a weakened Toka. Yoshimura immediately knew Yamori had taken Kaneki. Without hesitation, he ordered Yomo to gather all the members. Anteiku would temporarily close. When everyone had assembled, Yoshimura delivered grim news: they might never see Kaneki again. His words shocked Toka, and Nishiki didn't understand what he meant. Yoshimura explained that Aogiri Tree was made up of elite, battle-hardened ghouls. Rescuing Kaneki from their hideout would be nearly impossible. And they couldn't forget the CCG. He was certain they'd be sending reinforcements to crush Aogiri Tree. Any attempt to save Kaneki would put all of them at extreme risk. Despite the danger, Toka, Hinami, and Nishiki insisted they wanted to rescue him. Yoshimura admitted he wanted to help Kaneki too. He had only warned them so they would understand. He couldn't guarantee anyone's safety. Yoshimura brought in Tsukiyama too because he wants to rescue Kaneki. Toka refused to let Tsukiyama join the mission, but Yoshimura argued that their chances of successfully rescuing Kaneki would increase if Tsukiyama came along. Still, Toka was reluctant. She suspected Tsukiyama wanted to eat Kaneki. However, Yomo assured her that he would take full responsibility for keeping Tsukiyama in check. Yoshimura then asked about the CCG's movements. Yomo informed him that the CCG was ready to launch their attack after the all civilians had been evacuated. Meanwhile, Kaneki finally woke up. He was in Yamori's room, chained and helpless. As the CCG mobilized, Yamori began torturing Kaneki. He ordered Banjo to clean up the mess before leaving the room. Banjo promised Kaneki he would find a way to help him escape, urging him to endure a little longer. Banjo also revealed that he knew Rise was already dead, but Kaneki had kept the truth from Banjo to spare him from more grief. He informed Kaneki that the next ones to clean the room would be his companions, Shu and Haru, and told him to relay anything important to them. Back at Anteku, Yuta arrived, and he was willing to help. Yamori returned to force-feed Kaneki an insect as part of his twisted torment. The CCG had reached Aogiri Tree's hideout, also the Anteku team. Gunfire erupted between the CCG and Aogiri. However, Marude noticed that they were being overwhelmed. Aogiris were using their Kagune as shields, rendering CCG bullets nearly useless. In a show of determination, Marude personally entered the battlefield, swiftly taking down multiple ghouls, impressing many of the CCG officers. Meanwhile, Suzuya commandeered Marude's beloved motorbike to charge directly at the enemy lines. Marude was devastated, even brought to tears over his bike, but Suzuya's daring move cleared the path. They could now enter the building. Marude quickly ordered the rest of the team to storm in, his heart still aching for his ruined motorcycle. In secret, the Anteku group made their way up the building, silently eliminating Aogiri members. Amon finally encountered Toka, seeking revenge for Mado's death. Toka struggled against Amon's strength and was frustrated. She didn't have time to fight him now. Thankfully, the Bin brothers arrived, allowing her to escape. Elsewhere, Yuta, Tsukiyama, and Yomo surrounded Noro and launched a coordinated attack. Despite being overwhelmed by the Bin brothers, Amon refused to back down. He would not let Mado's death be in vain. Through sheer will and determination, he managed to defeat the brothers. As Toka continued her search for Kaneki, Ayato attacks her, but Nishiki arrived in time to protect her and lose consciousness. Meanwhile, Shinohara's team, along with Amon, reached the rooftop, just in time for the arrival of the one-eyed owl. Shinohara quickly informed Marude, who then ordered him to send men to confront Owl. However, he told Shinohara to only choose subordinates who were ready to die alongside him to buy time. Yamori had ordered Kaneki to count down from 1000 in intervals of 7 seconds. At first, Kaneki didn't understand why, but eventually, he realized it was Yamori's way of trying to keep him sane. All the while, Yamori was ripping off Kaneki's fingers and toes, over and over again.
And over, and over, and over, and over, and over, and over!
Every time they regenerated, Kaneki was reminded of the monster he had become. Yamori eventually confessed why he was so obsessed with Kaneki. He was fascinated by Kaneki's incredible regenerative ability, an ability he owed to Dr. Kano's experiment, which had turned him into a half-ghoul by transplanting Riz's organs into him. To further torment him, Yamori inserted a live centipede into Kaneki's ear. He took pleasure in every scream, every twitch of agony. Broken and in pain, Kaneki begged Yamori to just kill him. Inside his mind, Kaneki spoke to Riz. He recalled the teachings of his mother, who always told him it was better to be hurt than to hurt others. But to Riz, that philosophy was meaningless. She reminded him of how his mother died, working herself to exhaustion to support her ungrateful sister, completely neglecting her own health. Kaneki had always been alone, until Hideyoshi came into his life. He gave Kaneki a reason to smile again. But Riz warned him, Hideyoshi would eventually die too, and it would be Kaneki's fault. Back in reality, Yamori captured Shu and Haru, Kaneki's only hope of escape. Yamori forced Kaneki to choose, one of them must die. If he refused to choose, Yamori would kill them both. Kaneki couldn't speak. Paralyzed by fear, he made no decision. So Yamori began choking Haru. Shu begged Kaneki to choose him instead, willing to die for her. But still, Kaneki said nothing. Yamori killed Haru, then Shu. Both were gone, because Kaneki was too weak to act. Devastated, Kaneki blamed himself for everything. He saw visions of Toka, Hinami, and Hideyoshi are dead, all because he had lived by his mother's belief that it was better to be the one hurt. But in the end, he only hurt both himself and everyone around him. He remembered wishing his mother had lived for him, instead of dying for her sister who didn't deserve it. He didn't want to be left behind. He didn't want to be alone. For once, he wished his mother had chosen him. Even if it meant hurting others, at least she would have lived. And in that moment, Riz agreed. Sometimes, you have to walk away from others in order to save the ones who matter. Kaneki's mother couldn't do that. Not because she was kind, but because she was weak. Riz looked at him and asked, will you continue to let yourself be hurt like this? Will you keep letting people do to you whatever they want? Kaneki replied no. Riz warned him, once Aogiri's ranks grow, they'll bring chaos to the 20th ward. Will you let that happen? Kaneki answered, I won't. She asked again, do you have the strength to protect your friends? Kaneki said, I do. Riz asks, are you saying you accept me now? Kaneki replied, no, I don't need to accept you, because I've already surpassed you. She questioned, then are you making the wrong choice? He said no, I'm not wrong. This world is what's wrong. And with that, Kaneki consumed Rizz in his mind, and his hair turned white. Back in the real world, Yamori taunted him, saying their fun was almost over since the CCG would soon arrive. His job was to slaughter them all. Just as he was about to devour Kaneki, he paused and shocked. He saw Rizz. Delighted, Yamori attacked, but Kaneki had broken free of his restraints. He seized the chains and used them to strangle Yamori. Before Yamori could push him away, Kaneki bit into him. Kaneki found no pleasure in the taste of his blood, and he dodged Yamori's every attack with ease. Yamori managed to grab Kaneki's leg and twist it, but Kaneki still struck him back. His leg regenerated immediately, only enraging Yamori more. He launched a flurry of attacks, stabbing and slamming Kaneki into the ground. But Kaneki stood, unfazed. Unleashing his Kagune, Kaneki engaged Yamori in a brutal, final fight. Blow after blow, they clashed, until at last, Kaneki brought him down. He stared coldly at the broken man and gave him an order. The same order Yamori once gave him, count down from 1000 by sevens. Yamori refused. Kaneki stabbed him, again, and again. Yamori was defeated and sobbing, so he began counting. Kaneki pulled the centipede from his ear. The torment was over. And then, he devoured Yamori. Shinohara and Iwa drew their quinks and charged at the one-eyed owl. Despite the owl's fierce attacks, Shinohara and Iwa seemed untouchable. Working together, the four managed to wound the owl, yet each injury quickly regenerated. Meanwhile, the trio succeeded in decapitating Noro, but to their shock, his head reattached itself as if nothing had happened. They were stunned by his regenerative abilities. But when Noro's alarm went off, signaling something urgent, he showed no interest in continuing the fight. He vanished without another word. Yomo and the others chose not to pursue him and withdrew as well. Elsewhere, Amon and Hirako were thrown back by the owl's overwhelming power. Shinohara and Iwa attacked again, side by side, but they too were repelled. Realizing they had no choice, the two activated their Arata armor, enhancing their strength. Their eyes glowed red as their power surged, but the cost was steep. Shinohara's body began to deteriorate under the armor's pressure. In another part of the battle, Ayato overpowered Toka. As he was about to leave, Toka called out to their father, still addressing him as if he were alive. This enraged Ayato, who couldn't understand why she still held on to the past. Just then, Kaneki appeared, shielding Toka from Ayato's deadly crystals. He handed her over to Nishiki for safety and turned his attention to Ayato, dodging his attacks with incredible speed. Kaneki told Ayato he had no intention of killing him. After all, he was Toka's brother. This only made Ayato angrier, and the two clashed fiercely. Ayato managed to injure Kaneki, but his wounds healed just as quickly. While lying on the ground, Kaneki asked Ayato if he wanted to know his own secret, what he truly desired from Aogiri. Ayato attacked again, claiming Kaneki knew nothing, but Kaneki dodged the incoming crystal shards and kneed Ayato, forcing him to listen. Kaneki revealed that he understood. Ayato was doing all this to protect the ones he loved. He acknowledged Ayato's strength, saying he could have killed Kaneki already if he really wanted to. Then, he asked the question, what do you truly want from Aogiri? Before Ayato could answer, Noro intervened once more, taking Ayato and disappearing into the shadows. As the building started to collapse, Kaneki and others rushed out of danger. Debris threatened to crush Shinohara and Iwa, but to everyone's surprise, the one-eyed owl saved them and left without a word. With the city in ruins, panic broke out. Investigators scrambled to evacuate. Casualties piled up. Kaneki, having reached safety, turned back once more and left Nishiki and Toka, driven by something unresolved. Meanwhile, Shinohara and his team realized the entire mission had been a trap. But the question haunted them, why did the owl save us? Marude was furious. Half of the CCG forces were wiped out. It was a devastating loss. Kaneki walked among the fallen, taking in the horror of the aftermath. Amid the bodies, he noticed a woman wrapped like a mummy. From a distance, Hideyoshi observed everything, silently taking in the scene. Kaneki later returned to Toka and quietly told her he wouldn't be going back to Anteku. He had made his decision. He was joining Aogiri. Toka stood there, heartbroken and powerless to stop him. Kaneki walked away and just like that, he was gone and joined the Aogiri. After everything that had happened, the CCG officials held a conference meeting. Yoshitoki solemnly announced that their 9th and 10th ward branches had fallen, defeated by Aogiri Tree. The one who led the assault on those wards was none other than the Eyepatch Ghoul. This same Ghoul, they realized, was also responsible for the death of Kureo Mado back in the 20th ward. Putting the pieces together, the CCG concluded that Aogiri must have a base operating in the 20th ward. They believe their next targets will be the 3rd and 13th wards. Aogiri is clearly planning to dominate the entire west side of Tokyo. To counter this, Yoshitoki requested immediate reinforcements to be deployed across all the targeted wards. Meanwhile, Shinohara and Iwa discussed something strange in the elevator. The owl they had fought previously, had changed. It was smaller this time, unlike their first encounter where it was massive. That first battle had resulted in the deaths of many investigators. But now, there were only injuries, no fatalities. Shinohara speculated, could it be that the owl had shrunk with age? In the middle of all this, Hideyoshi Nagachika now works as a letter courier for the CCG. He delivered a message to Shinohara, perhaps something more than just written words. Amon later visited the grave of his late partner, Kureo Mado. There, someone unexpectedly appeared, a woman who introduced herself as Mado's daughter. Her name was Akira Mado, and she told Amon that she would be his new partner. Back at the office, investigator Takizawa couldn't hide his frustration. Why, of all places, was Akira assigned to the 20th ward? They had been classmates at the academy. Akira was the top of their class, while Takizawa was always second. Later, Shinohara gathered his team in the 20th ward and briefed them on what was discussed at the conference. Akira then offered her insight. She theorized that another ghoul organization might be hiding in the 20th ward, one that opposes Aogiri Tree itself. Aogiri Tree, led by Kaneki and Ayato, launched a trap against the CCG forces stationed in the 23rd ward. Amid the fierce clash, Kaneki was confronted by the twin siblings, Shiro and Kuro. But instead of a brutal fight, a revelation unfolded. They were just like him, one-eyed ghouls, just as their father had told them. Without warning, the twins vanished as quickly as they appeared, leaving behind only questions. With the CCG defeated, Kaneki's team finally achieved their goal, rescuing Naki, a loyal subordinate of the late Yamori. But when they brought Naki back to their hideout, the moment turned heartbreaking. Upon learning that his beloved boss, Yamori, had died, Naki broke down in tears like a grieving child. To spare him further pain, Kaneki and the others lied, telling him the CCG was responsible for Yamori's death, hiding the truth that it was Kaneki himself who ended his life. Meanwhile, Tsukiyama and Banjo infiltrated the Aogiri hideout, their motives still unclear. And elsewhere, investigators under Shinohara uncovered a haunting truth. 4 months ago, a woman was fatally crushed by falling steel beams. To save a young boy's life, a mysterious doctor transplanted her organs into him. That boy was none other than Ken Kaneki, a student at Kami University. Yoshitoki and Marude sat down for a serious conversation. Yoshitoki wanted Marude to become his right-hand man, and after some thought, Marude agreed. Together, they discussed a plan. They needed information about the owl, and their only lead was a ghoul known by the nickname, Priest. That ghoul was Donato Porpora, a foster father to Amon. But Donato was no ordinary ghoul. In Amon's past, Donato had devoured all of Amon's foster brothers and sisters, sparing only him. Amon made his way to the ghoul detention center, Cochlea, determined to confront the monster from his past. He asked Donato what he knew about the Aogiri tree and the owl, but Donato claimed he knew nothing. Amon knew then, his trip there had been a waste. Just as he was about to leave, the alarms blared. Akira informed him that the Aogiri tree was attacking. Meanwhile, Hoji contacted Shinohara to alert him of the raid in the Cochlea and the presence of Akira and Amon there. Without wasting a second, Shinohara hit the gas to accelerate. Inside Cochlea, chaos erupted. Aogiri clashed violently with the CCG, freeing several dangerous ghouls to fight alongside them. A heavy steel barrier began to close between the floors, but Kaneki rushed in to stop it from sealing off the lower level. Ayato descended and began slaughtering CCG officers. Kyoji managed to capture Totaro with his Quin K and thought he had dealt a fatal blow, but Totaro survived and killed Kyoji in cold blood. Kaneki headed toward a certain cell, Shachi's. He planned to release him, but the moment Shachi caught his scent, he recognized it. The scent of Rizz. Without hesitation, Shachi attacked Kaneki. Elsewhere, Akira faced off against Naki while Amon battled Naki's subordinates. Akira was nearly killed by Naki's relentless dodging, but she managed to stab him using her Chimera Quin K. She then hurled CRC gas at Naki and his ally, weakening their Kagune. As Akira was about to kill Naki's companion, Naki leapt in to shield him. Bleeding and battered, Naki pressed forward, landing a powerful kick on Akira. He even bit into her leg, until Amon stepped in and knocked him away to protect her. But things were getting worse. More Aogiri members arrived, surrounding them. Still, Amon fought alone, refusing to leave Akira behind. Meanwhile, Shinohara had arrived at Cochlea and encountered Ayato. Their battle was fierce, but Shinohara, impressed by Ayato's strength, activated his Arata armor. Back with Kaneki, he was being brutally pummeled by Shachi, used like a living punching bag. Just as Shachi was about to finish him, the leader of Aogiri appeared and stopped him. She asked a haunting question to Shachi, "Do you want to see Rizz again?" Kaneki, broken and despairing at his weakness, underwent a transformation. Fueled by grief and pain, his Kagune began to change, taking on a new monstrous form. The twin ghouls, Kuro and Shiro, ganged up on Suzuya in a relentless assault. Working together, they managed to knock Suzuya's Quin K out of his hands. It looked like the end. They were ready to finish him off. But Suzuya wasn't done yet. With a flash of movement, he stabbed Kuro straight through her left eye. Yet she didn't flinch. Kuro told him it was nothing, it would heal. Meanwhile, Ayato and Shinohara were still locked in an intense battle. Shinohara managed to land a clean slash on Ayato. Back with the twins, Suzuya danced through their attacks with eerie agility. He began slicing and stabbing Kuro repeatedly, treating the fight like a cruel game. Suzuya was playing with them, and he was winning. Eventually, he slashed Kuro one last time, and she collapsed. Shiro, furious and desperate, charged at Suzuya without thinking. It was reckless, and Suzuya struck, cutting her as well. Shinohara, on the other hand, was starting to feel it. The Arata armor he wore was slowing down, its reaction time diminishing as the fight dragged on. Suzuya severed Shiro's arm. Shiro turned to her sister and told her to run, to leave her behind. But Kuro refused. She helped her injured sister escape, choosing to stay together, no matter the cost. Elsewhere, investigators Takizawa and Hoji arrived at Kakuya, only to be met with silence and blood. Not a single guard was left. That's when Hoji spotted Tatara. He immediately ordered Takizawa to fall back. Tatara asked for someone, Fei Yan, but Hoji stood firm. He couldn't hand Fei Yan over, even if he wanted to. That authority wasn't his anymore. Meanwhile, Shinohara finally defeated Ayato. As Ayato lay unconscious, he caught a glimpse of the armor Shinohara was wearing, the Arata armor, named after his own father, Arata Kirishima. Suddenly, from above, an attack. To Shinohara's shock, Kaneki was wielding a Kakuja, a rare and deadly form of Kagune. Elsewhere, Amon and Akira encountered Kuro and Shiro. The twins froze at the sight of Amon. He had once been their teacher. Overcome with fear and memories, the two fled. Amon let them go, confused and disturbed. How were humans turning into ghouls? He wondered. Back in the battle, Kaneki and Shinohara clashed. Despite the strength of the Arata armor, Kaneki was powerful enough to match it, even overwhelm it. Still, Shinohara managed to cut him, but Kaneki rose again. He appeared behind Shinohara in an instant and tore into him, landing a devastating blow. Elsewhere, Hoji continued fighting Tatara when the alarms blared and CRC gas flooded the area. Tatara, recognizing the danger, withdrew from the battle without a word. Then came the most horrifying sight. Amon stumbled upon Kaneki, feasting on Shinohara, his mentor, his comrade. Amon's rage boiled over, and he attacked. Through clenched teeth and heavy strikes, Amon demanded answers. Why didn't you kill me back then, Kaneki? Kaneki didn't reply. He couldn't. His mind was no longer his own. As Amon hacked away at Kaneki's monstrous Kakuja, the boy inside the beast finally stirred. Tears filled Kaneki's eyes. Through trembling lips, he cried out, I don't want to eat anymore. Just then, the owl descended from above. Akira's eyes widened in disbelief and anger. The owl took Ayato and Kaneki, and disappeared. Despite everything, Shinohara survived. He was placed under medical care and was resting in the hospital for a few days. It turned out that during their battle, Kaneki had only been consuming the Arata armor. Amon later asked Shinohara if the Eyepatch Ghoul was a Kakuja. Shinohara replied that he was a half Kakuja and warned Amon that Eyepatch was extremely dangerous. Back at the Aogiri hideout, Kaneki struggled to control his Kakuja. The power was overwhelming and slowly consuming him. Meanwhile, Amon, Akira, and Takizawa went out to eat. But Takizawa soon returned to the office to finish an unfinished report. Once he left, Akira opened up to Amon. She revealed something painful. It was the owl who had killed her mother. Her father had devoted his life to avenging her death, but he was killed by Toka. Akira's voice trembled with anger as she turned to Amon. She blamed him. Where were you when my father needed you? You should have helped him. You should have saved him. You killed my father. Amon didn't argue. He accepted her words with guilt heavy in his heart. He spoke. I killed your father. The memories came rushing back, haunting him. Memories of being too weak, too late. He admitted that he couldn't save Mado back then because he simply wasn't strong enough. But now, he swore to protect Akira with everything he had. No matter what happened, he would not let her be hurt again. Tsukiyama went to Anteku to inform Yoshimura that Kaneki had been engaging in serial cannibalism in an attempt to become a Kakuja. Concerned, Yoshimura asked Tsukiyama if he could continue gathering information for him. Tsukiyama agreed without hesitation. He was already planning to do so. Meanwhile, Sen Takatsuki visited the CCG under the pretense of being a novelist researching ghouls for her writing. She interviewed Shinohara and subtly brought up the possibility of creating artificial ghouls. Confused, Shinohara asked what she meant. Sen explained that the CCG was experimenting by transplanting ghoul genes into humans, effectively turning them into ghouls themselves. Shinohara, clearly taken aback, responded that he was merely a field agent and had no knowledge of such activities. He insisted there was no sense in creating dangerous ghouls in the first place. Before ending the interview, Sen dropped a subtle hint, there were rumors circulating about a certain coffee shop in the 20th ward. Later, Kaneki returned to Anteku. Not long after, Hinami arrived as well. Roma informed her that Kaneki was here, speaking with Yoshimura. Hinami rushed to find Toka and urgently told her that Kaneki had come back. Without wasting a second, Toka ran straight to Anteku, but by the time she got there, Kaneki was already gone. Refusing to give up, Toka chased after him and finally caught up to him on an overpass. There, Kaneki told her that Yoshimura wanted him to return to Anteku, but he was conflicted. He said he needed to grow stronger to protect the people he cared about, which is why he joined Aogiri. Toka was visibly upset. She told him that despite what he claimed, everything he was doing seemed more about protecting himself than anyone else. Kaneki tried to explain that as long as someone was beside Toka, he could find peace, but she wasn't having it. Frustrated, she punched him, calling him out for playing the tragic hero. She demanded to know how he could possibly protect others when he couldn't even protect himself. She reminded him harshly that no one was waiting for him at Anteku. Toka continued to hit him, tears of anger and sadness in her eyes, asking, "Why did you have to end up like this?" Then, she walked away. Later on, Kaya informed Yoshimura that CCG investigators had paid them a visit. Shinohara had specifically requested to speak with Yoshimura. During their conversation, Shinohara brought up Kaneki and asked if Yoshimura knew what he was doing now. Yoshimura, calm yet heavy-hearted, replied that they hadn't heard from Kaneki in 2 months. He also revealed that Kaneki had undergone organ transplantation, and he was certain that Kaneki was in a dire state. After that, Shinohara and Suzuya left Anteku. Back in their conversation, Yoshimura wanted to tell Kaneki the truth about the owl. Yoshimura began to share his past. In order to survive, he consumed both humans and ghouls. He even killed his own friends. His name, his story, it spread like wildfire. Eventually, an organization took interest in him. They enlisted him to fight for their cause. Unknowingly, he followed their orders, killing both humans and ghouls alike. Killing became his profession. But in time, Yoshimura realized, the organization wasn't the right path for him. One day, in an old, quiet coffee shop, he met someone, a woman, special, someone different. He had always kept his heart closed to others, but for some reason, she was the exception. When she discovered the truth about who he was prepared to kill her. But instead of fear, she embraced him. She accepted him, entirely. They had a child together. And for a short while, they were truly happy. But happiness, for someone like him, was never meant to last. The organization he once worked for came after them. They targeted him, and his wife, Ukina, was killed. To protect their child, he left her behind. Days turned into years, and then, the owl appeared. The terrifying one-eyed ghoul, hated by the world, was his own child. After Toka, Hinami, and Yomo left Anteku, CCG investigators surrounded the cafe. Shinohara walked in and ordered a cup of coffee. Yoshimura sat beside him. They exchanged only a few words. And once Shinohara finished his drink, he quietly left. Yoshimura knew what was coming. As a final act, Kaya and Koma burned all the documents containing their members' identities, so no one else would be put in danger. Later, Yoshitoki and Marude requested permission to the superior to initiate an extermination mission. Their target, the owl. Their battlefield was on Anteku. News had already reached Kaneki and Toka. Civilians were being evacuated from the 20th ward. The area was completely sealed off. Yoshitoki had mobilized every available force, and the CCG was slowly closing in on Anteku. Masked and ready, Kaya and Koma emerged. The two began tearing through the CCG ranks with precision and fury. Reinforcements followed, descending from above. The CCG quickly recognized them, Koma, the infamous devil ape, and Kaya, the terrifying black dog. The surveillance team relayed the intel. The first division wasn't up against Aogiri, it was the devil apes and black dobers. Marude, seeing this, delegated the battle. Hachikawa would take on the black dobers, while Mogen would handle the devil apes. Despite their overwhelming force, the CCG couldn't keep up. The devil apes were relentless, until Mogen arrived and unleashed a devastating blast. Koma's comrades were wiped out in an instant. He alone survived. Elsewhere, Hachikawa used his yellow crystals to bring down the black dobers. Kaya was the last one standing. At the heart of it all stood Kuzan, just meters away from Yoshitoki. He transformed, revealing his true form, the owl. Toka wanted to help, to fight alongside Anteku. But Yomo stopped her. This fight, Koma, Kaya, Kuzan, it was their punishment. No matter how much they had changed, the sins of their past remained. They had taken too many lives. But Toka said she had taken lives too. She deserved to be punished just like them. Yomo could no longer stop her. She ran. Kaneki also decided to join the battle. Behind him stood Nishiki, who reassured him. Hinami and Toka were safe. Yomo had taken them to a secure place. Nishiki said something that hit hard. The lives they cherished could vanish in an instant. When Kaneki asked what he planned to do, Nishiki replied, "Of course I'll run. If I die now, then the deaths of Kuzan and the others would mean nothing." Suddenly, Tsukiyama arrived. He refused to let Kaneki fight the CCG. They were too many, and if something happened to Kaneki, he wouldn't know what to do. Kaneki, calm but resolved, said he understood the risks. But Tsukiyama snapped. Furious, desperate, he lunged at Kaneki. "What am I supposed to do if you disappear?" He screamed. "I won't let anyone get in my way, not even you, when it comes to devouring you." Kaneki dodged his attacks, refusing to fight back. Meanwhile, Kuzan decimated the CCG soldiers in front of him. Even Iwa and Shinohara managed to wound him, but the owl healed instantly. Kaneki eventually overpowered Tsukiyama. Broken, Tsukiyama pleaded, begged him to stay. "I'm sorry," he said. "But thank you, for coming to stop me. Still, I can't just stand by and do nothing anymore." Koji aided Shinohara by launching a crystal that exploded on impact, but Kuzan's wounds regenerated instantly, showing no signs of slowing down. Mogen unleashed a rapid series of blasts, but Koma skillfully dodged them all. Koma managed to destroy Mogen's weapon and believed victory was within reach, until Dagon's weapon extended and hit Koma with a devastating blast, knocking him out of the fight. Meanwhile, Kaya effortlessly dodged the attacks of Hachikawa's squad. Suddenly, an old woman appeared behind her, and Kaya froze in shock at the sight of her. Hachikawa ordered his subordinates to eliminate both Kaya and the woman. Kaya took a hit protecting her and fell off the building. Thinking Koma was dead, Mogen let his guard down, but Koma shattered his blast cannon and struck Mogen down with his Kagune. Kaya survived the fall and, while fighting, reflected on her life. She thought, "Not all of my choices were the best. Maybe I was wrong, maybe I was right. But none of that matters now. Facing my sins like this, facing them head-on, at least I can die happy, because I died protecting someone important." Hiriko scolded Hachikawa for being reckless, reminding him that protecting civilians always comes first. But Hachikawa was furious. To him, the life of the black dog meant more than the old woman's. He had waited 10 long years to take his revenge, for the teacher and comrades the black dog had taken from him. He didn't care about Hiriko's opinion. Just as Hachikawa was about to finish Kaya off, someone struck him down. It was Kaneki. Suzuya followed to assist in the fight against Kuzan. Kaneki quickly overwhelmed 2 investigators, even destroying Hiriko's Quin K in the process. Suzuya fought Kuzan with thrill and excitement, but Shinohara could see it clearly. Suzuya couldn't win like this. Then, a memory of Mado came to Shinohara's mind. Mado once told him, "You think too much. Sometimes, you need to surrender to your instincts. Not every enemy can be brought down by calculations. You need to understand your allies, how they think, how they fight." That's what I did when I partnered with you. Kuzan landed a powerful blow that sent Suzuya flying, but Shinohara told him, "Don't stop, keep charging." Kaneki rescued Kaya and Koma, then set his sights on Kuzan. Suzuya and Shinohara fought together, and their teamwork proved highly effective. They surrounded Kuzan with 4 investigators. As they talked about the eyepatch ghoul, Kuzan began to retreat. Suzuya caught up to him, while Kaneki fought off those who blocked his path. Toka was hiding in the shadows of the buildings, and Hideyoshi disguised himself as a CCG officer. Shinohara and his team caught up to Kuzan and continued the relentless assault. One by one, their combined efforts began to overwhelm him. Finally, Kuzan fell. In his final moments, he saw Ukina, and followed her into the afterlife. Shinohara informed Marude that the owl had been eliminated. Cheers erupted. The mission was a success. Kaneki remembered Kuzan's last words, "You are the only one who belongs in both worlds. I hope that someday, you'll save the sorrowful souls, like my child." Kaneki stood face to face with Amon's squad. And then, just as the dust was settling, the one-eyed owl appeared before Shinohara's group. In the blink of an eye, the one-eyed owl brought down Shinohara and the others, leaving Suzuya frozen in shock. As the owl turned its sights on Suzuya, Shinohara rushed to protect him, taking the full blow and collapsing. Suzuya, powerless to help, was violently thrown aside by the owl. Suddenly, the Aogiri tree members began to swarm, launching a full-scale assault on the CCG. Marude was stunned to discover, there wasn't just one owl. There was another. Desperate, Suzuya hurled knives at the one-eyed owl, but they barely made it flinch. He tried to slash it, but nothing could pierce through. Still, Suzuya didn't give up. Blow after blow, slash after slash, none of it worked. The result was always the same. Meanwhile, Kaneki and Mado clashed evenly, their powers perfectly matched. But when a collapsing piece of the building threatened the lives of other investigators, Kaneki made a split-second choice, to save them. Amon, confused, demanded to know, what was Kaneki fighting for? What did he really want? Kaneki answered with honesty, if possible, I don't want to fight you. But despite that, he pushed Amon back. Akira, worried about Amon, Sayakazawa said to her, let me handle this, and urged her to go help Amon. She reluctantly agreed. In the split second, Takizawa watched in horror as his entire squad was wiped out in an instant by Tatara. Tatara grabbed him by the throat and demanded to know Hoji's whereabouts. Takizawa, defiant, said only that Hoji would never lose to someone like Tatara. Enraged, Tatara hurled him away, and Noro delivered the final blow. Hideyoshi saw everything, and Noro saw him. Back with Kaneki and Amon, their battle raged on. Amon pierced Kaneki multiple times. In pain, Kaneki's Kakuja began to emerge, but he fought it, refusing to lose control. Both men were exhausted, barely standing, yet they shared a fleeting smile. Kaneki admitted, once again, that he truly didn't want to fight Amon, but fate had left them no choice. He took off his mask. They both charged, and in the end, they both collapsed. At the owl's location, Arima finally arrived. His presence alone reignited the CCG's hope. Surrounded by Aogiri, the investigators stood their ground, unafraid. Arima clashed with the one-eyed owl in a brutal, evenly matched duel, but Arima struck, and finally managed to wound it. Wounded, the owl fled, seeking out Kuzan, and devoured him. The owl descended further down, trying to escape. Arima pursued it, but couldn't stop it from escaping. Kaneki was still alive, barely. Weakened, but determined to reach Anteku, to help. When he came to, he found himself already there, at Anteku. Confused, then he saw, it was Hideyoshi who had brought him back. Kaneki was shocked. He instinctively covered his left eye. But Hideyoshi finally admitted, he had known all along that Kaneki was a ghoul. Meanwhile, Aogiri had successfully escaped from the CCG. Akira was left grieving, devastated by what happened to Amon. And Hideyoshi, he had been gravely wounded by Noro. With his last breath, he looked at Kaneki and said, let's go home. When Toka arrived at Anteku, she was stunned. Flames engulfed the place. Kaneki emerged from the burning cafe, still carrying Hideyoshi. Toka saw him and tried to chase after him, but debris fell and trapped her. She survived, though, and continued the pursuit. Kaneki stopped in the middle of the road. Toka was ready to run toward him, but Yomo held her back. He had promised Kuzan, he would protect Toka, no matter what. Kaneki, carrying the weight of everything, his sins, his grief, his past, walked straight into the arms of the CCG. And there, he surrendered. Years passed. Toka had opened her own coffee shop, quiet, simple, and peaceful. 2 years have passed since the CCG's raid on Anteku. In the aftermath, a new hope arises for the organization in the form of the Quinx Squad, a special team composed of humans who have undergone surgery to gain ghoul abilities while retaining their human minds. The CCG is currently pursuing a ghoul known by the nickname Torso. Chihori provides 2 Quinx Squad members, Kuki Yuri and Ginshi Shirazu, with a photo taken from one of Torso's crime scenes. However, Hori demands a payment in exchange, either 1 million yen or a personal item from Sasaki. Shirazu suggests asking Sasaki for his underwear, but Yuri immediately refuses. Yuri, fully aware of Shirazu's financial struggles and ambition for promotion, decides not to inform Sasaki or the rest of the squad. He believes that if only the 2 of them capture Torso, it will boost their individual reputations, whereas credit given to the entire squad might only elevate Sasaki's standing. Yuri subtly manipulates Shirazu into agreeing with this plan. Meanwhile, Sasaki is aware that Yuri and Shirazu are conducting a solo investigation. He discreetly asks Toru Matsuki, another Quinx Squad member, to team up with him in hopes of getting ahead of the others. The next day, Sasaki and Matsuki visit the Cochlea, seeking information from the imprisoned priest Donato Porpora. Sasaki explains that Torso's crime scenes are scattered, his victims are all women, and he always takes their torsos. Donato deduces that Torso likely uses a car for his crimes, possibly working as a taxi driver to blend into society and avoid suspicion. Yuri and Shirazu successfully trade Sasaki's underwear to Hori in exchange for more photos of Torso's predation sites. Separately, Sasaki and Matsuki split up to investigate various hospitals. During the search, Matsuki spots a suspicious taxi, rushes to it, and gets in. Meanwhile, Yuri and Shirazu receive an alert on Yuri's phone. Matsuki has identified Torso's vehicle. They hurry to the location. Inside the taxi, Torso suddenly strangles Matsuki. Matsuki fights back, stabbing him in the eye and hand, but Torso overpowers and brutally beats him. As he continues the assault, he spots the incoming investigators and tries to escape. Shirazu uses his Kagune to try and flatten the taxi's tires but misses. Police officers arrive to assist, but Torso kills them with his Kagune. The chase ends with Torso abandoning his taxi and confronting Yuri and Shirazu directly. Shirazu engages him with his Kagune, and Yuri slashes at him with his Quin-K. Mutsuki tries to assist but struggles, having yet to master his Kagune. Suddenly, a powerful new ghoul enters the scene, Orochi, who immediately overpowers Yuri. Shirazu tries to distract Orochi to protect Mutsuki but is also knocked aside. Despite Shirazu's plea to retreat, Yuri refuses, consumed by his desire for promotion. Orochi attacks all three of them relentlessly. Just as things take a turn for the worst, Sasaki arrives. He protects his squad from Orochi's onslaught, urging them to flee, but they are once again knocked back. Inside Sasaki's mind, Ken Kaneki resurfaces, criticizing Sasaki for his weakness and warning that his friends will die unless he acts. Kaneki urges Sasaki to accept him. Sasaki resists, refusing to be overtaken, and asserts control over himself. Then, with renewed resolve, Sasaki unleashes his Kagune, ready to face the threat and protect his squad. Orochi's Kagune was destroyed by Sasaki, but it regenerated quickly. Orochi then swiftly moved in front of Sasaki and kicked him hard. Sasaki tried to fight back using his Quin-K and Kagune, but Orochi easily dodged it and continued to assault him with a series of kicks. Kaneki's voice echoed in Sasaki's mind, waking him up. As Sasaki stood back up, Shirazu and Mutsuki wanted to assist, but Sasaki held them back. Mutsuki noticed that something had changed. Sasaki seemed like a completely different person. Regaining control, Sasaki destroyed Orochi's Kagune and relentlessly stabbed him. During the fight, Orochi's mask came off, revealing a second face on the back of his head, Nishiki. Upon seeing Sasaki, Nishiki immediately recognized him as Kaneki. Sasaki, however, was overwhelmed with confusion. He couldn't remember who Nishiki was, but fragments of his memories began to surface. The pain in his head intensified. More CCG investigators arrived, forcing Orochi to escape. Hiriko told the others not to pursue him. They needed to focus on Sasaki, who was starting to lose control. In an effort to subdue him, 3 investigators slashed Sasaki, while Akira positioned herself on a rooftop and fired a tranquilizer to knock him out. Later, due to Yuri's reckless behavior during the battle with Orochi and his refusal to retreat, Sasaki removed him from his role as squad captain of the Quink's squad. The position was handed over to Shirazu. Sasaki then went to Arima and revealed that he had started hearing Kaneki's voice again. He admitted he was certain that Kaneki was his former self. Although he had no clear memories of his past life, Sasaki expressed fear that if Kaneki returned, the family he had built over the past 2 years would be lost. Elsewhere, Shimoguchi survived an attack by an Aogiri tree member and reported to the CCG that it was Rabbit who ambushed them. Meanwhile, Yuri, driven by a desire to grow stronger and to develop a Kagune as powerful as Sasaki's, sought out Dr. Shiba. Dr. Shiba explained how the Quink's system worked. A ghoul's kakaho is implanted into the body, and their power is regulated through 5 frame stages. Yuri was currently at frame 2, with only 40% operational capacity. Although unlocking more frames would increase his power, Dr. Shiba warned against it. Ignoring the risks, Yuri insisted. Dr. Shiba reluctantly gave him a permission form that needed signatures from both the chief and Sasaki. Yuri secretly forged Sasaki's signature using a signature stamp. Later, Shirazu and the others learned that the Quink's squad was no longer assigned to the Torso investigation, as he was now considered possibly affiliated with Aogiri Tree. The S1 to S3 ranks would handle the case. Instead, their next target was a ghoul with the alias Nutcracker. While discussing Nutcracker, Sasaki caught the scent of something delicious. The group decided to go for coffee, and unknowingly entered the cafe owned by Toka. A wave of shock filled the air when Sasaki and Toka came face to face. Meanwhile, Yuri underwent surgery to increase his frame level. Back at the cafe, Toka served Sasaki and the others a cup of coffee. The moment he tasted it, a memory stirred. He remembered the flavor. Tears welled up in his eyes. He and Toka locked eyes in a powerful moment of unspoken recognition. Karen gave Tsukiyama Sasaki's underwear, hoping it would stir his emotions. However, when Tsukiyama smelled it, he still felt nothing, only a faint sense of familiarity. Meanwhile, Yuri returned from the hospital, and Shirazu informed him that the Suzuya squad had discovered Nutcracker's location. A joint operation between the Quink's squad and Suzuya squad was scheduled for the next day. During the meeting, they discussed Nutcracker's horrific activities, kidnapping people and selling them as goods at ghoul auctions. The highest bidder either eats the victim or keeps them as pets. Also expected at the auction is an SS-rated ghoul, Big Madam, making the mission even more dangerous. Later, Sasaki visited Cochlea prison to speak with Donato. Donato asked him, "If your memories returned, what would you do?" Sasaki was caught off guard, questioning Donato's sudden curiosity. Donato hinted that another ghoul with a personal interest in Sasaki may hold the key to unlocking his past. Afterward, Sasaki revealed their mission plan to the squad. 3 of them would disguise themselves as women. Karen, realizing Tsukiyama felt nothing from Sasaki's underwear, gave it to Hori to return it. Sasaki and his team went undercover, dressed as women, in the clubhouse. Sasaki finally laid eyes on Nutcracker. Among the crowd were Nico and Roma, both noting how Sasaki looked strikingly similar to Kaneki. During the operation, Shirazu informed Sasaki that Nutcracker had chosen her next target. Suddenly, Mutsuki, intoxicated and out of control, blurted out loud that he had received a job offer from Nutcracker, completely disregarding the people around him. Despite the awkward moment, the plan progressed, and the team celebrated their small victory by dancing with joy. Later, Sasaki and Suzuya reported to Matsuri Washu, the man orchestrating the S2 operation. When asked about the auction schedule, Sasaki revealed it would happen on November 11. Matsuri insisted that only Mutsuki be placed inside the auction, but Suzuya suggested going along to ensure better support. Matsuri eventually agreed. Meanwhile, Ito told Ayato that Totara wanted him to act as Big Madam's bodyguard at the upcoming auction, alongside Naki and Miza. Ayato also noted that Torso, whose real name is Saki, would be joining them to gain experience in high-risk missions. The ghouls have discovered that Mutsuki is a one-eyed ghoul, and Saki secretly tells Ayato how he can infiltrate the auction, because Mutsuki is about to be bid on. As the twisted bidding war begins, Mutsuki is filled with anxiety. He has no idea what's going to happen or what the plan is. One of the clowns leans in and delivers devastating news: "Your plan failed. No one's coming to save you." The winning bid is 200 million yen by Big Madam. Even Nutcracker is shocked at the price Mutsuki fetched. Amused and impressed, she plants a kiss on his cheek. Next up on the auction block, it was Suzuya. In a split second, he hurls knives, targeting one of the clowns in the other crowd. Panic erupts. Screams fill the room as terrified ghouls flee for their lives. Juzu's eyes lock onto Big Madam. Her face twists in shock. He used to be her pet. Outside, the CCG forces begin their assault. Naki, reckless as ever, charges headfirst into battle. Ayato clashes with Suzuya, determined to protect Big Madam. Meanwhile, Saki and Hinami navigate through the chaos, and Saki spot Mutsuki with Nutcracker. Realizing the chaos could be his only chance, Mutsuki gathers his courage. With a powerful kick, he strikes Nutcracker and breaks free. He escapes into the shadows, hiding, but not for long. Karen finds him. Naki and Miza overpower several CCG officers, but reinforcements arrive. Akira and her squad join the fray. Meanwhile, investigator Shimoguchi warns his overconfident comrade not to be reckless. But arrogance leads to death. The clown he injured was only pretending to be weak, and strikes back, killing him instantly. Shimoguchi, Takomi, and Kuramoto charge in, but another clown appears. Back with Mutsuki, Karen slashes him, planning to present him as an offering to Tsukiyama. But out of nowhere, Saki attacks Karen. He brutally beats her, and in the scuffle, Mutsuki recognizes him. He was Torso. Mutsuki runs, terrified, but Karen won't let him escape. She uses her Kagu-ne to stab him. Then she turns on Saki, relentlessly beating him, buying Mutsuki just enough time to flee once more. Elsewhere, Dr. Kano and Ito prepare their secret weapon. One of the owls, Takizawa. Investigator Otto manages to defeat an unknown ghoul, only to face a nightmare. Takizawa arrives. In a flash, he kills Otto, swift and merciless. Karen once again easily found Mutsuki. She was shocked to see that Mutsuki's wounds had healed so quickly, and out of frustration, she kicked Mutsuki with full force. Karen unleashed her Kagu-ne to finish the job, but just in time, Sasaki appeared and stepped in to protect Mutsuki. Shirazu created a diversion, allowing Yuri to land a powerful knee strike on Karen. Karen was furious, not just from the attack, but because she recognized Sasaki. Meanwhile, Takizawa devoured Otto, horrifying one of the investigators who immediately opened fire on him. But the bullets had no effect. Takizawa was unfazed. He killed the man without mercy. The rest of the CCG tried to escape, but Takizawa chased after them and slaughtered them one by one. Elsewhere, other investigators made their way to the monitor room, unaware that Nutcracker was hiding above. One of them spotted her just in time. The CCG launched a fierce assault, and though Nutcracker fought back, she was eventually slashed by their combined efforts. Akira was overpowering Naki in their battle. Miza rushed in to help, but the other CCG members opened fire on Naki. Just before he was hit, Gagi and Guge shielded him with their bodies. Their sacrifice was devastating. Both Gagi and Guge died on the spot, and Naki broke down in tears over their loss. Hinami, using telepathy, told Ayato that Naki was losing and needed help. But Ayato, standing guard over Big Madam, said he couldn't leave his post. He had to protect her. Back in the fight against Karen, the three joined forces. Karen grew more agitated, blaming Sasaki for Tsukiyama's current suffering. Yuri and Shirazu managed to land slashes on her. But just as they had the upper hand, Matsume arrived and rescued Karen. Yuri tried to chase them down, but Matsume blocked the path with her Kagune, allowing them to escape. Oshiba found himself trapped. Nutcracker had set a Kagune snare in the ceiling. She ambushed and slaughtered more CCG members. Oshiba managed to contact his allies outside, warning them that Nutcracker possessed a compound Kagune. But it was too late. Nutcracker crushed his testicles in a brutal scene. Shirazu attempted to destroy the Kagune traps, but they wouldn't break. Matsuri informed Sasaki that the entire Oshiba squad had been wiped out by Nutcracker and ordered the Quinx squad to handle her. Because Matsuki was badly injured, Sasaki told him to sit the fight out. Yuri was assigned to assist Matsuki in exiting the building safely. Matsuri also tried to contact the Auto squad, but by then, Takizawa had already begun devouring them. One investigator recognized him. It was Takizawa, their former mentor. He recognized Togi too, and killed him without hesitation. Yuri and Matsuki, while navigating the aftermath, noticed something strange. The bodies they passed belonged to both Aogiri and investigators, but the masked crowd from earlier was nowhere to be found. Yuri spotted something suspicious in the auction hall. There was a basement. He asked Matsuki if he was willing to investigate, warning him that if they encountered enemies, they'd retreat immediately. Naki was still grieving over Gagi and Guge. Despite being surrounded by investigators, he was spared. Ayato had arrived and wiped them all out. Yuri and Matsuki's suspicion was correct. The basement was full of ghouls, and Suzuya was already there. Suzuya wanted to report to HQ, but Yuri lied, saying the communicator wasn't working. He didn't want anyone else taking credit for the battle, especially since Suzuya had already claimed half. Yuri and Suzuya descended into the basement, cutting through Aogiri members as they went. Meanwhile, up above, Matsuki was ambushed. A clown shattered Takomi's Quinque and slammed him into a wall. The clown tried to eat him, but Takomi fought back, strangling the clown until he died. Hiriko's opponent, another clown, changed his face to look like Arima. But Hiriko didn't hesitate. He slashed the clown's face, even though the wound healed almost instantly. Back in the basement, Yuri was thrilled with his newfound strength. Matsuki pointed out Big Madam's location, and Yuri rushed in to face her. But she easily knocked him aside. When Matsuki arrived, she found Big Madam devouring Yuri. Sasaki and his squad finally reached the remnants of the Oshiba squad. Only Hayashimura had survived. Then Takizawa showed up. Sasaki intercepted his attack, and Takizawa immediately noticed something. Sasaki's blood. It reminded him of Ito. Takizawa launched a brutal attack, and though Sasaki managed to stab him, it barely fazed Takizawa. He even sliced through Sasaki's Kagune like it was nothing. Sasaki, realizing the danger, ordered the others to escape while he distracted Takizawa. Takizawa dragged Sasaki to the rooftop, hurling him across the edge and into the auction hall below. Meanwhile, Shirazu and the others arrived at Nutcracker's location. Shirazu launched the first attack, leaping toward Nutcracker, but it was a trap. He got caught in her Kagune, helpless. Just as she was about to finish him off, Hayashimura intervened, slicing through the Kagune and saving him. The two teamed up against Nutcracker, barely surviving as she nearly crushed Shirazu's testicles. He was pinned near a post, narrowly dodging another trap. When he saw the Kagune, he recognized it instantly. Shirazu tapped on the nearby posts, sensing where the traps were hidden. Elsewhere, Matsuki tried to help Yuri, but he was ambushed by Big Madam's guards. Yuri was nearly killed but managed to force open Big Madam's monstrous jaws and escape. In a chilling turn, he unleashed his Kagune, now wild and deranged, and crushed two of Big Madam's henchmen in an instant. He was in frame 4, more powerful than ever, and stunned by his own strength. But power wasn't enough. When Big Madam attacked, she overwhelmed Yuri, beating him mercilessly. Frustrated and crying, Yuri couldn't understand why he was still weak despite trying so hard to grow stronger. In a fit of anger, he punched Matsuki. But instead of retaliating, Matsuki released his Kagune, embraced Yuri, and reminded him, he's not alone. Big Madam prepared to take Matsuki and kill Yuri, but just in time, the Suzuya squad arrived. Back with Shirazu, he pleaded for Saiko's help, but she was too afraid to fight. So, Shirazu used Sasaki as his reason to convince her. He told her, if we don't stop Nutcracker now, Sasaki will die. Together, they lured Nutcracker to the ceiling, trapping her in her own Kagune traps. With one powerful move, Saiko ended the fight. Shirazu delivered the final blow, and in her last breath, Nutcracker whispered that if only she had money, she would have wanted to be beautiful. Meanwhile, the Suzuya squad was gaining ground against Big Madam. As Suzuya stared her down, He calmly said, "All I've received from you are wounds, but I've never hated you." Enraged, Big Madam snapped and revealed the cruel truth. She never loved Suzuya. She raised him because he had a beautiful body. Nothing more. Suzuya's squad delivered the finishing blow, ending Big Madam once and for all. As she spit out her final, painful words, one of the squad members gently covered Suzuya's ears, sparing him from her last cruelty. Back in the auction hall, Takizawa began strangling and stabbing Sasaki, toying with him, enjoying the suffering. In a control room above, a man broadcasted the sound of Sasaki's agony through the speakers. Psycho found the CCTV feed, and what she saw horrified her. Elsewhere, Akira asked Matsuri who Sasaki was fighting, but Matsuri didn't answer. He didn't care. All he wanted was for Sasaki to buy them more time. Takizawa, broken by the world, saw himself in Sasaki. He mocked him. No matter how loud Kaneki's soul screamed, no help was coming. Takizawa understood too well what it felt like to be used by the CCG and discarded like garbage. He prepared to land the killing blow, but Hinami arrived, saving Sasaki in the nick of time. She begged Takizawa to help Ayato and the others, but he refused and attacked them instead. Hinami fought to protect Sasaki, even though he no longer remembered her. She stabbed Takizawa repeatedly, but he was unfazed. He unleashed his monstrous Kakuja. Hinami was flung back. Takizawa was now uncontrollable, consumed by madness. Still, Hinami stood her ground, ready to protect Sasaki, even if it meant her death. But Sasaki stopped her. "Don't protect me anymore," he said. "I'm not the person you knew." Even if his body belonged to Ken Kaneki, he was Heisei Sasaki now. But in that moment, Sasaki accepted the truth. He embraced Ken Kaneki within him. Now, as both Sasaki and Kaneki, he would fight, not just to survive, but to protect everyone he cares about. And so, the battle between Takizawa and Sasaki began on equal ground. Arima's squad finally arrived at the auction hall, and in that moment, Hinami knew this was where her life would end. Surrounded, with no way out, she had accepted her fate. But just when all hope seemed lost, Sasaki stepped forward. He pleaded with Arima, asking to take custody of Hinami himself. Arima silently agreed and walked away. As more CCG investigators began flooding into the scene, the remaining ghouls realized they were outmatched. One by one, they began to retreat, abandoning the auction house. Karen tells Tsukiyama's father, Mirumo, that Tsukiyama has been eating indiscriminately and has completely lost control of his Kagune. She fears that if this continues, Tsukiyama will eventually fall apart. Just then, the maid informs Karen that Tsukiyama is having another violent episode. Karen rushes to his side and manages to restrain him so he can be injected and calm down. When Tsukiyama regains consciousness, he apologizes to Karen. Seeing the state he's in breaks her heart. He pleads with her to always watch over the Tsukiyama family in his place. Meanwhile, Ayato wants to rescue Hinami from the Cochlea detention facility, believing Aogiri Tree still needs her. However, Tatara strongly disagrees, saying it's far too dangerous. Escaping from Cochlea once was already a miracle, but a second time would be impossible. To Tatara, the members of Aogiri are nothing more than pawns, and Hinami can easily be replaced. Later, Hori gives Karen something that might help save Tsukiyama. The Quinth Squad's next mission is to exterminate a ghoul organization known as Rizz. The CCG successfully trapped several members of the organization. Matsume uses her detachable Kagune to try to escape, but investigator Ihei appears behind them. At Yuta's mask shop, Sasaki arrives to return the eye patch once worn by Kaneki, which was sent from his address. Yuta admits he may have mistakenly sent it to the wrong place, but denies sending a certain book. Sasaki notices something strange about Yuta's eye, but Yuta brushes it off as just a tattoo. Yuta then returns Kaneki's old mask to Sasaki. When Sasaki asks if a mask can be custom-made, Yuta confirms that it's possible. Back on the battlefield, Ihei skillfully dodges Matsume's attacks and destroys her detached Kagune. Matsume tries to get close, but Ihei is relentless. She lands a clean cut on her. Meanwhile, Kojima captures Yuma, forcing Matsume and the others to retreat. Matsume apologizes to Mirumo for Yuma's capture, and Eliza is devastated. Yuma is her lover. Karen gives Tsukiyama the photo Hori had handed her. It's a picture of Sasaki. Tsukiyama breaks down in tears. Seeing Sasaki sparks something deep within him, curiosity, emotion, and perhaps, hope. Tsukiyama was filled with excitement. He had finally found Kaneki. But Karen, ever cautious, warned him, the man he's about to see is no longer Kaneki. He now goes by the name Heisei Sasaki, a new identity given to him after losing all of his memories. Still, Tsukiyama rushed to meet Sasaki, believing that their bond was strong enough to transcend lost memories. But when he arrived, he tripped, literally, right in front of the Quinx squad. And in the most heartbreaking way, Sasaki didn't recognize him at all. Tsukiyama's hope shattered as he and Karen walked away in silence. Later, the Quinx squad visited Yuta's shop to get new masks. They were about to go undercover in the Ghoul world, and disguises were necessary. As Yuta took their facial measurements, Shirazu asked Sasaki if he had official permission for this mission. Sasaki admitted he was going to inform the higher-ups, but hadn't yet. When Sasaki finally told investigator Kori about the plan to pose as ghouls, he didn't approve immediately. Sasaki understood his hesitation and left. But investigator Furuta, overhearing the conversation, said the mask idea was brilliant. He hinted that Kori might just be jealous that Sasaki would take all the credit. But Kori wasn't concerned about credit, he was afraid. He knew who Sasaki really was. He knew he was a ghoul, and feared how dangerous he could become if he ever lost control. Meanwhile, investigator Kojima sent a disturbing video to Mirumo, showing Yuma in captivity. Despite being tortured, Yuma refused to speak. Kojima then sent his address, challenging them to come find him. His actions disgusted Kori, who reminded him that what he did violated the Anti-Ghoul Act. But Kojima didn't care. He was due for a meeting with the top brass, and if he wasn't removed from the team, they'd see each other again soon. Tsukiyama continued trying to reach Sasaki, but he was always surrounded by his squad. Karen gave Tsukiyama another photo of Kaneki, one taken by Hori. Tsukiyama was deeply touched. Hori really knew him well. That night, Karen appeared near the Quinx squad and fled, luring them into a chase. Yuri and Shirazu recognized her from the auction and pursued her to a parking lot, where she attacked them. Sasaki and the others followed but were blocked by Naki's men. Sasaki sent Saiko and Mutsuki ahead to help Yuri and Shirazu. Naki's gang didn't recognize Sasaki from the hit list, but they didn't care, they attacked him anyway. Meanwhile, as Saiko and Mutsuki searched for their teammates, they encountered Seiki. Mutsuki attacked him relentlessly. Seiki, in a twisted admiration, was thrilled that the one he desired had grown stronger. Even as he was being sliced, he smiled, until a member of Aogiri stepped in and threw him out of the building to protect him. Elsewhere, Karen managed to wound Shirazu's Kakaho. Yuri told him to use his Quin K, but Shirazu froze. Every time he tried, he was haunted by nightmares of Nutcracker. Disgusted, Yuri fought Karen alone, slicing and strangling her, but she still managed to escape. Mutsuki was ambushed by a ghoul who introduced himself as Grave Robber, seeking to steal his Quin K. Grave Robber brutally overwhelmed Mutsuki, disarming him and preparing to deliver the killing blow, until Yuri and the others arrived. Outnumbered, Grave Robber escaped, for now. While hiding, Saiko was found by another ghoul who tried to kill her. Sasaki had defeated the majority of the white suits. The remaining ones, terrified, and fled. Just as all hope seemed lost, a mysterious figure dressed in black saved her, and disappeared before she could even thank him. Sasaki were relieved to find Saiko safe. She tried to point out the man who saved her, but he was already gone. Ito encounters Karen and immediately recognizes her as a member of the prestigious Roswald family. Fueled by frustration, Karen lashes out and attempts to devour Ito, but Ito easily dodges her every move. With a swift strike, Ito stabs Karen and coldly tells her that no matter what she tries, she will never bring Tsukiyama back to his senses. She bitterly points out that when Tsukiyama saw Sasaki, he instantly snapped out of it, while Karen, no matter how much she claims to care, could never reach him. Karen argues that it's not true, that she genuinely loves Tsukiyama. But Ito strikes back with a harsh truth. He doesn't love you, and there's no reason to keep loving someone who can't love you back. With no other options to understand just how powerful their enemy is, investigator Kori agrees to a risky plan. The Quinx squad will pose as ghouls to infiltrate their world. As Sasaki investigates deeper into ghoul territory, ghouls tremble at the sight of him, because he wears the iconic mask once used by Kaneki. Disturbed by this, Sasaki searches for information about the infamous Eyepatch Ghoul and finds a record stating that Kotaro Amon had died in the line of duty. Suddenly, Sasaki is gripped by a sharp pain in his head. Kaneki's voice echoes within him, whispering the horrifying truth, "I killed Amon." Despite Yuma's death, Eliza still goes to confront Kojima, only to be killed by him as well. Meanwhile, investigator Kori requests special permission from CCG chairman Tsuneyoshi Washu to investigate the properties of the Tsukiyama family. The chairman not only grants permission but authorizes a full-on eradication plan against them. Heisei Sasaki becomes more determined than ever to uncover his true identity, but Akira remains tight-lipped. Frustrated and disheartened, Sasaki confronts her. In a rare moment of warmth, Akira embraces him and gently says, "You are who you are. Names don't matter." Elsewhere, Mirumo gives his son a cup of coffee, secretly laced with a sedative. He orders Matsume to stay by Shu's side as a guardian. When the CCG arrives at their mansion, Mirumo confesses to Kori that his servants, though ghouls, lived quietly among humans. He pleads for them to be allowed to live out their final moments in peace. The CCG captures the Tsukiyama family head far too easily, and Sasaki senses something's off. Investigator Matsuri suspects a trap and begins to wonder, who are they really protecting? Why make the head of the family the decoy? Suspicious, he asks for a list of all Tsukiyama group properties. Shu finally wakes and asks Matsume about his father. She explains that Mirumo stayed behind at the mansion with several servants, choosing to buy time so Shu and the others could escape. The family's social power is gone, the Tsukiyama legacy, effectively over. Shu is devastated. The sacrifice reminds him of what Kuzan, Koma, and Kaya once did. He orders Matsume to turn back, but she refuses. With solemn determination, she tells him that their failures led to this end, but as long as Shu lives, the history of the Tsukiyama family can continue. You are the next family head. Shu has no choice but to accept the burden. At one of their remaining properties, loyal ghouls of the Tsukiyama group gather to protect Shu, fighting desperately to ensure he escapes by helicopter. Elsewhere, Ito coldly tells Karen, if you want to take what's precious to someone, you must steal what's precious to them. With a twisted sense of vengeance, she disfigures Karen, both physically and emotionally. The CCG has arrived at Tsukiyama's hideout, mercilessly eliminating the ghouls who were protecting him. Mero warns Matsume that the CCG forces, led by investigator Ihei, are already downstairs. Despite the danger, Matsume and Mero are determined to fight back. Tsukiyama, knowing the end may be near, asks Matsume to promise she'll return alive, but Matsume refuses to make a promise she can't keep. Instead, she pleads with him to live and not let their sacrifices go to waste. Meanwhile, Kori tells Sasaki to head to the rooftop. He entrusts the Quink's squad to Shirazu and rushes upward. When Sasaki arrives at the rooftop, no one's still there. Down below, Matsume and Mero cross paths with Ihei. Tsukiyama finally reaches the rooftop, only to witness the CCG destroy the helicopter that was supposed to be his escape. When Kori asks Sasaki for an update, he lies, saying no one's there yet. Sasaki confronts Tsukiyama and urges him to surrender. But Tsukiyama refuses. He kicks Sasaki, declaring he won't give up, not after his entire family gave their lives for his survival. Elsewhere, the Shimoguchi squad encounters Karen. In a flash, she slices off Shimoguchi's left hand. Though Shimoguchi resists their help, his subordinates protect him, sacrificing their lives before his very eyes. Ihei wounds Matsume, but she refuses to fall not until Tsukiyama is safe. In a critical moment, Ihei slips on blood, and Matsume pierces him with her blade. At the same time, the Quinks and Ito squads face off against Noro. He's unstoppable, instantly killing two members. He sets his sights on Saiko, but Takomi shields her. Yuri manages to wound Noro's Kagune, and Mutsuki holds him in place. Shirazu detonates an explosive Quink, and Saiko lands a devastating hit, slicing Noro in half. But even after all that, Noro regenerates. He smashes Kuramoto, crushing his ribs. Back in the fight with Matsume, Ihei calls for Okahira's Quin K and launches a massive blast. Mero charges in, but Ihei switches targets and slices him in half. Just as Ihei thinks it's over, Mero, still alive despite being halved, delivers a final slash, severing Ihei's head. Kojima mourns Ihei's death and prepares to kill Matsume, but Mero, barely clinging to life, stabs him. Matsume cuts off Kojima's right hand, slashes him repeatedly, then kicks him onto his own chainsaw. But Matsume isn't done. She stabs Kojima again and again. When she charges Furuta, he uses a fellow CCG member as a shield. Then, Furuta blinds Matsume, seizes the chainsaw, and brutally kills her without mercy. On the rooftop, Sasaki studies Tsukiyama's movements as they clash. They attack at the same time, but Tsukiyama is defeated. He pleads with Sasaki to kill him, but Kaneki's voice echoes in Sasaki's mind, telling him not to. Suddenly, Karen strikes, slicing Sasaki's right hand. Tsukiyama is shocked by Karen's appearance. No matter what the Quinks or Ito squads do, Noro won't die. His regeneration is relentless. They need something stronger. Shirazu decides to use his powerful Quin K. Everyone works together to distract Noro while Mutsuki restrains him. Shirazu unleashes his Quin K and gave a massive explosion. One investigator drives a weapon into Noro's face to make sure he's dead. But then, even in death, Noro's Kagune erupts from his mangled body, striking everyone nearby. Back on the rooftop, Karen strangles Sasaki. In that moment, Sasaki sees Arima in his mind and awakens. He decapitates Karen, but she regenerates. He stabs her again and sends her flying. Sasaki prepares to end it, but Tsukiyama intervenes. He tells her to escape. The one-eyed owl arrived at the battlefield, swiftly destroying the helicopter that carried Matsuri. Though the explosion sent Matsuri plummeting down, he miraculously survived. The owl then flew to where Sasaki were. Karen followed up by viciously kicking Sasaki twice, then repeatedly stomping on him. Inside Sasaki's mind, the child version of Kaneki appeared. The boy quietly confessed that he once believed Sasaki would save him, but instead, Sasaki reached for his neck, intent on killing him. Kaneki didn't resist. He was ready to die. But just as Sasaki was about to strike, the child spoke. "Don't you remember? Our mother was kind, too kind. She always put others before herself, even at the cost of her own well-being. That kind of kindness had consequences. It left them vulnerable, emotionally neglected, hurt. And yet, the boys still loved their mother. He wanted to die just like she did. But he couldn't. That was Kaneki's salvation." Sasaki fell into a deep sleep, and Kaneki rose again. Kaneki sliced off Karen's right arm and made his return.
Now would you shut the hell up?
Meanwhile, Kori was enraged over the death of Ihei, while Furuta pretended to mourn the loss of Kojima. Kaneki grabbed a steel rod and drove it through Karen's eye. He skillfully dodged her counterattacks, quickly repositioned behind her, and stabbed again. Then, Kaneki turned his blade toward Tsukiyama, and stabbed him too. While this was happening, Noro's overwhelming power pushed the rest of the squad to their limits. Shirazu stepped up, determined to protect his teammates. He bombarded Noro with a relentless barrage of explosives. But even then, Noro kept moving. That's when Yuri charged forward to end it. Shirazu, gravely wounded, could no longer see or hear the voices around him. Yuri and the others called to him in desperation, but it was too late. With his final breath, Shirazu entrusted his sister Haru to them, and then, he was gone. Elsewhere, Kaneki evaded Ito's attacks. He told her that her father, Kuzan, had wanted him to save her. He tried to land a blow, but missed. "Why would I save someone like you?" Kaneki asked. "You're trash." Ito, enraged, went all out in her assault. They battled across the tower, darting and leaping through debris and wreckage. Finally, they clashed at the very top. In one last exchange, Kaneki struck true. Ito fell. She smiled. "I liked you," she said. "Because you and we're the same." Kaneki split her body, and she plummeted down the side of the building. Later, Kori and her team reached the rooftop, only to find Kaneki calmly eating. He informed them that the owl had escaped, and was still alive. He confirmed that their suspicions were correct. The Tsukiyama family was connected to Aogiri Tree. Kaneki seized Tsukiyama, ready to finish him. He told Kori and the others to handle Karen. He dropped Tsukiyama from the rooftop, but Karen, desperate to save him, leapt after. Even though Tsukiyama didn't want her to risk her life, Karen chose to save him anyway. She threw him toward the trees to soften his fall, and died in the process. Kaneki then found Yuri and the others. Yuri was overwhelmed with anger because Sasaki couldn't come there sooner. But Kaneki, still carrying Sasaki's memories, told him, "This isn't my fault. You were the one fighting alongside Shirazu. If you're going to curse anything, curse your own weakness." That's what killed Shirazu. The CCG still pursued Tsukiyama, but he was saved by Toka, Yomo, Hori, and his father, Mirumo. After several months, Yoshitoki officially announces that they've discovered the main base of Aogiri Tree. It's located on Rushima Island in Tokyo Bay. With this intel in hand, the CCG wastes no time and begins preparations for a full-scale Aogiri extermination operation. Ito and Tatara, knowing the CCG will come for them soon, prepare for the inevitable. They make their final choices and part ways, ready to face whatever comes next. Meanwhile, Kaneki questions Sen's friend about whether he knew she was a ghoul. He tells him that by hiding this knowledge from the authorities, he has violated Article 119 of the Anti-Ghoul Act, a crime punishable by death. Later that night, Sen bravely reveals her secret to the media. She is a ghoul. But more than that, she dreams of a world where humans and ghouls can coexist in peace. She wants everyone to live together, side by side, without fear or hate. Kaneki, suspicious of Ito, confronts Ayato and asks what Ito is really up to. Ayato claims he doesn't know. Kaneki then drops another bombshell. Hinami's execution has already been scheduled. After her public confession, Ito visits her old friend Shiono. Shiono apologizes for everything, but Ito forgives him, saying she's grateful. Because of him, she became one of the best authors in the world. But things take a darker turn as Kaneki finally arrests Ito. Elsewhere, Arima and the higher-ups of the CCG discuss the possibility that Ito might be the fabled One-Eyed King. They also reveal they've located Shachi, and assign Arima to take care of him. Their goal was to find out where Rizz is hiding. In a tense confrontation, Kaneki asks Ito if the things she wrote in her book were true. Ito confirms. The Washu clan are collaborators of the ghouls. She then asks Kaneki if he's heard of the an organization with a twisted belief that the world is their personal property. Kaneki is skeptical, but Ito challenges him further. She points out how the RC gates, which detect ghouls, don't respond to her, or even to him, because both of them carry special RC cell patterns. According to her, these gates are programmed to ignore ghouls affiliated with the V organization. Ito reveals that many members of the Washu clan, her father Kuzan, and even Rizz, are connected to V. However, Rizz tried to escape from the organization. As Shachi reflects on Rizz, he's suddenly ambushed by Arima and his team. Despite their skill, Shachi fends off the CCG operatives and even lands powerful punches. He manages to dodge Arima's attacks and refuses to reveal Rizz's location, saying, a father's duty is to protect his child. But in a coordinated strike, Hiriko slashes him, and Arima follows with a brutal stab and an electric shock, finally subduing him. Ayato approaches Banjo, requesting his help. Understanding the urgency, Banjo gathers his men. They're going into Cochlea. As the alarms blare and chaos breaks out inside, Ayato and Banjo make their move. Amid the confusion, Kaneki finally reaches Hinami, determined to rescue her before it's too late. Hinami slaps Kaneki, demanding to know what he's doing. After all, he's supposed to be an investigator. But for Kaneki, this is his final mission. After this, he intends to let Arima kill him. Meanwhile, Ayato has wiped out several CCG operatives inside Cochlea, but he's suddenly ambushed by Arima. Ayato can't land a single hit. Arima's overwhelming skill leaves him injured and on the brink of death. Just as Arima is about to deal the final blow, Yomo and Toka arrive in time to save him. In a flashback, we learn that Arima was the one who killed Hikari, Toka and Ayato's mother, and Yomo's sister. Yomo recalls how Arata, Hikari's husband, once apologized to him for failing to protect her. Yomo was furious back then, blaming Arata for surviving while his sister died. Grief-stricken by the loss of his wife, Arata eventually descended into cannibalism, turning into a Kakuja. He was ultimately captured by Shinohara and Mado. Later, Yomo confides in Kuzan that he regrets blaming Arata. That guilt has haunted him, especially knowing that Ayato and Toka were left with no family. Kuzan tells Yomo, it's hard to protect someone. No matter how hard you try, you might still lose them. All you can do now is protect the ones they left behind. Kaneki and Hinami encounter Furuta, who's stunned by what Kaneki has become. The three of them team up to fight Arima. Ayato asks Toka why she and Yomo are even here. She answers simply, to save Hinami, just like you. As Furuta attacks, Kaneki disarms him with a kick, sending his chainsaw flying and delivering a brutal blow to his head. Furuta attempts to blind Kaneki, but Hinami intervenes, stabbing him with her Kagune. With the opportunity opened, she and Kaneki fled. Despite using all his strength, Yomo still can't defeat Arima and suffers a devastating wound. As Arima moves in to finish him, Kaneki jumps in to protect Yomo. Before leaving, Toka tells Kaneki, I'll see you later. Ayato finally finds Hinami and simply says, we're going home. Kaneki and Arima continue their brutal battle all the way down to the deepest level of Cochlea. Even though Kaneki can predict Arima's moves, he still gets slashed. Arima demands, fight me like you mean it. As Toka and the others escape, Ayato asks if she's really okay leaving Kaneki behind. Toka replies, Kaneki can only protect us if we keep going. We just have to trust him. Arima tells Kaneki he could have landed 645 fatal blows on him. That's also the number of times he chose to let Kaneki live. What have you chosen? Arima asks. Kaneki replies, I'll keep you busy down here. But Arima is losing patience. He believes his time spent on Kaneki was wasted. This angers Kaneki, who unleashes his Kakuja, finally shattering Arima's Quin-K. Arima pulls out another, crafted from the owl's Kaku-Ho. Back at the surface, Furuta activates a trap, causing steel debris to collapse and crush some of Banjo's allies. Suddenly, Ito appears before him, destroying everything in her path. Arima and Kaneki clash again. Arima sets a Kagune trap that impales Kaneki midair. As Kaneki falls, Arima slashes him repeatedly. In his mind, Kaneki accepts death, hoping that at least Toka and the others have escaped safely. But then, Hideyoshi appears in his mind, stopping him from giving up. To Kaneki, defeating Arima seems impossible, but Hideyoshi believes in him. Kaneki breaks down in tears, confessing how much he's missed his best friend. Hideyoshi tells him he needs to find the meaning of his life, but he will definitely find it. Don't waste your life, Kaneki, he says. Come back. Back in reality, Kaneki rises again. Meanwhile, Ito devastates Furuta's forces. Only he remains. Though pretending to be weak, Furuta reveals his ghoul powers and crushes the owl's head. As they fight, Kaneki distracts Arima with plant-like Kagunis, breaking another of Arima's Quin-Ks. Furuta defeats Ito's owl form, delighted he joined Dr. Kano, his Kagune is just like Rizz and Kaneki's. Ito asks Furuta what his goal is, especially if he doesn't care about the V or the Washu clan. Furuta simply smiles and replies, super peace. Kaneki tells Arima the fight is over, but Arima replies coldly, it's not over until the enemy is dead. With a shattered Quin K left, he lunges forward, but Kaneki lets himself be stabbed. This is meaningless, Kaneki says. Continuing this fight serves no purpose. Arima stops. You never intended to kill me, did you? He asks. Kaneki confirms, he never did. And then, Arima slits his own throat. Kaneki stares in shock. An investigator reports to Yoshitoki that chaos has erupted at Kakuya. Concerned, Yoshitoki asks for the odds of their forces winning the battle at Rushima. One replies, only a 56% chance. Yoshitoki quickly orders that the Kakuya situation be kept a secret from the forces currently fighting at Rushima to avoid further panic. At Rushima, Hachikawa and Ayumu are struggling against the overpowering Takizawa and Shikore. Desperate to save his comrade, Hachikawa pushes Ayumu into the ocean to spare him from certain death. Moments later, Shikore fatally stabs Hachikawa. Meanwhile, Mutsuki is trapped inside a cave, cornered by the terrifying Saki. Elsewhere, Misa and her ally are hiding when suddenly, Abara stabs Misa's partner in a surprise. Abara attempts to slash Misa as well, but she dodges skillfully. In the struggle, Abara's Quin K becomes lodged in a wall. Misa moves in for the kill, but then Abara activates the Silver Skull ability. Tendrils erupt from the walls and impale Misa. Just then, Kuro arrives. Back at the battlefield, Hoji informs Akira that it took 100 officers to take down Tatara's older brother, yet Tatara may be even more dangerous. Knowing this, Hoji asks Akira to fight by his side and to assume that he won't survive. Abara fights defensively, buying time more than aiming to win. Kuro taunts Abara, mocking his loyalty. When Abara retaliates in anger, Kuro counters every slash and headbutts him hard. Kuro nearly finishes him off. As Abara falls, Kuro questions him, why stay loyal to a squad leader like Suzuya, who seemingly doesn't care for his comrades? Abara replies with passion and conviction. First, it is only right to follow one's superior ghoul investigator. Second, Abara, am fully loyal to Suzuya. Third, Suzuya never abandons his comrades. Right on cue, Suzuya arrives, shielding Abara. Meanwhile, Tatara feels triumphant. His long-awaited final battle with Hoji has come. The grief and rage from his brother's death are about to be unleashed. Hoji, ready to face fate, accepts the challenge. Tatara unleashes his Kakuja, blasting investigators with his signature blue flames. Many fall in an instant. Hoji tries to close the distance multiple times, only to be knocked back every time. Just as Tatara is about to finish Hoji, Takizawa intervenes, leaping onto Tatara. Back at the fight against Kuro, Suzuya's squad teams up but their efforts are futile. Kuro blocks and evades them all. Kuro stabs Suzuya, thinking she's won, but in a flash, Suzuya uses his Arata armor, slicing Kuro in half. Though Kuro's body regenerates, Suzuya teleports forward and hacks him down mercilessly. Wounded and outmatched, Kuro escapes, and Suzuya lets him go. Takizawa endures Tatara's flames and slices through him. With a final stab, Takizawa kills Tatara. Hoji, though saddened, Takizawa was once subordinate, ordered the remaining CCG to kill him. Takizawa is stunned and demands to know why Hoji would do this. Flashbacks reveal Takizawa's hellish past. After the 20th ward battle, Dr. Kano saved his life, but at a price. He turned Takizawa into a ghoul. Out of 63 subjects, only Takizawa succeeded. The trauma was too much. He vomited in horror and confusion. Kano tortured him, obsessively trying to recreate someone like Kaneki. Back in the present, he brings down CCG officers effortlessly, even choking Akira. He pleads to be recognized, to be seen, saying, I used my power to kill Tatara. I saved you. Why won't any of you see me? Suddenly, Amon arrives, a ghoul himself now, slashing Takizawa's hand. Elsewhere, Kuro confronts Dr. Kano, begging him to save Shiro. But Kano coldly tells him, Shiro is dead. Enraged, Kuro intends to kill Dr. Kano, but Kano releases one of his Quink's creations to defend himself. Back in the fray, Takizawa kicks Amon hard. He believes Amon is there to kill him, but Amon says otherwise. He's here to save him. Takizawa mocks this, throwing crystal shards, and dares Amon to try. He grabs Amon and stabs him brutally, calling him a failure. Just like Kano says to him, Amon tells Takizawa, you're not a ghoul, you're still a ghoul investigator. But Takizawa won't listen. He stabs Amon again, until the Quink squad, led by Yuri, arrives. Saiko recognizes Amon. He saved her in the past. Yuri urgently asks, where's Mutsuki? Elsewhere, Kuro targets the ghoul, taking advantage of the rising steam to weaken it, then stabbing it. But Dr. Kano releases even more monstrous creations into the battlefield. Misa regains consciousness to find all the CCG around her slain by Naki, who dies protecting her. Misa cries in grief. Then Cory arrives, telling Misa to just kill herself. But Misa refuses. As long as I'm alive, I'll fight. Cory prepares to end her. But Naki suddenly wakes up, revealing he was only napping. His two subordinates, Shosei and Haguro, also arrive to back him up. Kuro launches crystals at the ghouls, but one manages to catch him. Kuro stabs it to escape. In frustration, he blames Dr. Kano for ruining his life and Shiro's, calling him a mad scientist. Meanwhile, Nishiki captures Kano. Agreeing with Kuro's condemnation, Naki and his team are now surrounded by CCG reinforcements. But just in time, Tsukiyama appears to aid them in battle. Tsukiyama swiftly cuts down CCG operatives, leaving Naki and Misa confused, unsure whether he's truly their ally or not. Meanwhile, Kuro wonders the same about Nishiki, when someone suddenly charges at Nishiki from behind. But Nishiki handles the attacker effortlessly. Shikore then slashes through Nishiki's Kagune, and Roma follows up with a stabbing blow. The Quinx squad bands together to take on Takizawa. Yuri demands to know where Mutsuki is, but Takizawa only smirks and says he doesn't know, though he's pretty sure Mutsuki's already been eaten. Takizawa dodges the Quinx squad's attacks with ease, but he's growing tired. Just as Yuri prepares to land a finishing blow, Akira steps in to protect Takizawa, resulting in her getting cut by Yuri's blade instead. Yuri is shocked, and even Takizawa is confused. Takizawa questions Akira's actions, but she confesses, protecting a ghoul is a serious crime, one that she tried to resist committing. But in the end, she couldn't help it. She never truly belonged in the CCG. Akira collapses. Yuri tries to help her, but Amon steps in to stop him. He tells Takizawa to take Akira and leave to go to the wharf. His friends are waiting there. Takizawa is stunned that Amon would trust him, a murderer and a traitor. But Amon assures him, he believes in him, sincerely. Takizawa picks up Akira, and before leaving, tells Amon he hasn't forgiven him yet, not after what happened. Back on the battlefield, ghouls continue to distract Nishiki, giving Dr. Kano the chance to escape. Frustrated, Nishiki kills more of the ghouls in his way. Roma charges at him again, but Kuro intervenes, stabbing Roma and offering to team up with Nishiki. Amon, now standing against the Quinx squad, overpowers them. Yuri asks what they're supposed to do about Akira. Amon calmly replies, she doesn't belong with the CCG. Psycho watches silently, overwhelmed by the chaos around her. Elsewhere, Tsukiyama and Naki fight Cory together. Suddenly, Fura appears. Takomi and Ito fight Naki, but Misa joins in and manages to stab Ito. Roma, enraged, launches another attack, but Kuro slices through her Kagune and wounds her again. Shikore rains down crystals on Kuro and chokes her, but Nishiki intervenes with a powerful kick. Annoyed, Nishiki realizes Shikore is a dual Kagune type, but Shikore, now bored with fighting, runs away. Roma mocks Nishiki, asking, don't you think fighting is meaningless? But Nishiki answers firmly, no, I don't. The Quinx squad continues their battle with Amon, and eventually, Yuri lands a blow to his back. Psycho joins in, torn because she still sees the kindness in Amon. Yuri warns her not to hesitate, they can't afford to lose anyone else. Yuri throws his Quin K like a spear to finish Amon off using the ability of his Quin K. It seems over, until Amon rises again, transforming into a Kakuja. Out of control, he attacks Yuri and another Quinx, knocking them back. One Quinx uses his Frame 3 ability and charges, only for Amon to slam him into a wall. Yuri, filled with rage, attacks again, but ends up getting cut. Amon hesitates, clearly fighting his instincts. Psycho rushes in, refusing to let her friend die. She confronts Amon, asking why he saved her before. Amon replies, because it was the right thing to do. He then tells her, the world is askew. It's easy to lose sight of what's right and what's wrong. That's why you have to keep questioning whether your choices are right. With that, Amon walks away. Meanwhile, Marude confronts Yoshitoki at gunpoint. He tells him he conducted a personal investigation into the Washu clan. What he discovered wasn't that they were ghoul collaborators, but that the Washu themselves are ghouls. Yoshitoki pointing out the lack of conclusive proof. Marude admits, it's only his instinct. And with that, he pulls the trigger. Overwhelmed by guilt after shooting his mentor, Marude is stunned to see Yoshitoki still alive. Without hesitation this time, he shoots again, killing him for good. Back in Cochlea, as Ayato and the others are being watched by a warden, Donato suddenly appears behind him, his cell mysteriously open. He kills the warden. Yuta hands Donato his mask, and Donato tells him, let's go get our king. Elsewhere, Arima tells Kaneki something shocking. He, Haru, and Furuta, those chosen from the Sunlit Garden, are not fully human. They're misbegotten, semi-humans with ghoul blood. Arima asks what happens when a ghoul and a human have a child. Kaneki replies, they're gonna become one-eyed ghoul, but Arima said, not all of them. Most appear human but possess enhanced strength and die young. Cases like the one-eyed owl are rare. Even Arima's eyesight is failing, and his life is nearing its end. Matsuri, meanwhile, mourns the death of his father, Yoshitoki. Arima tells Kaneki to ask Hirako about everything. He's been told it all. Kaneki then asks, "What do you want from me?" Arima answers simply, "I want you to kill the One-Eyed King," because he himself is the One-Eyed King. Arima explains that Ito told him if a ghoul were to kill him, that ghoul would become a beacon of hope. The One-Eyed King was a construct, created by Ito and Arima to unite ghouls. With the ghouls escaping Rushima, Yuri finally finds Mutsuki in a cave. Arima, wounded and near death, begs Kaneki to finish him. Kaneki agrees. Arima thanks him, saying that he has always hated killing, and now, he's glad he can leave something good behind. And then, Kaneki breaks down, crying out in anguish for the mentor he's just lost. When Kaneki regained consciousness, he found himself in Toka's shop. He had lost consciousness during the battle in Kakuya, where he fought several CCG members. Surprisingly, some CCG investigators were now cooperating with the ghouls, which puzzled Haguro. Hirako explained that they were there to protect Kaneki and ensure Arima's dying wish would be fulfilled. Kaneki confirmed that Hirako and the others were now allies. Kuro asked what kind of gathering this was. She said he didn't mind joining, as long as it would help her kill Dr. Kano. Misa told Kaneki that his companions were the ones who saved her life during the Rushima operation, so she would decide after hearing Kaneki out. Kaneki then declared he would inherit the will of the former One-Eyed King and build a world where ghouls and humans could understand each other. Kuro laughed and asked how he planned to make ghouls and humans understand one another. Kaneki simply answered, "We'll talk it out." He added that the reason the two sides had been fighting for so long was because neither had ever tried to meet the other halfway. He believed mutual understanding was possible, and that the key was communication, but admitted people wouldn't accept it easily. That's why, he said, "We're going to force them to sit down at the bargaining table." Kaneki then announced the formation of an anti-human organization called GOAT, with himself, now the One-Eyed King, as its leader. Naki and Kuro, frustrated, stormed out. Later, Yomo confessed to Hirako that Arima had killed his sister, who was Toka and Ayato's mother. Hirako told him Arima was already dead, and though Yomo may still hate him, he no longer had the chance for revenge. Hirako added that he trusted Arima's choice and believed in Kaneki, and asked Yomo if that wasn't enough. Coming to an understanding, Hirako said, "Doesn't mean having everything in common." Suddenly, Shio told Hirako to turn on the TV. The news reported black smoke rising from the CCG building in the 22nd Ward and several other locations. Hirako suspected their enemies were using the appearance of the One-Eyed King as a pretext to cleanse the departments. Meanwhile, Akira was in critical condition and might die. Takizawa was deeply concerned and asked Banjo if there was anything that could be done. Just then, Nico appeared, saying he wanted to meet the new king. Nico claimed Akira would die, but there was still a way to save her. He handed over a note with information on a doctor he trusted. Later, Naki kicked down the door where Kaneki was and attacked him, angry after learning Kaneki had killed his boss, Yamori. Misa tried to stop him, but Naki didn't listen. Kaneki asked what he had to do to make Naki follow him. Naki replied that the strongest should be on top. So, Kaneki accepted his challenge. Kaneki easily dodged Naki's attacks and countered with strong kicks. Despite that, Naki kept fighting. Naki managed to grab Kaneki's leg and tried to crush it, but Kaneki was already used to Yamori's torture methods and didn't feel much pain. After another strong blow from Kaneki, Naki realized Kaneki was using Yamori's Kagune. Defeated, Naki acknowledged Kaneki as the new leader of the White Suits. Kaneki told him that if the White Suits were to die disgraceful deaths, then they should die under his watch, because he would fight for their sake as well. Later, Nishiki told Tsukiyama and Kaneki about a group called the Great Wheel Act, a human organization that supposedly supported ghouls, which sounded unbelievable. Tsukiyama joked that, flying pigs have arrived, and Ogura appeared, introducing himself as a member of the Great Wheel Act. While Akira was in surgery, Kaneki asked Ogura what the group was about. Ogura explained it began as a student group at Kami University, but it was forced to disband. Over time, its membership changed, but its core principles remained. The group believed that being born human or ghoul shouldn't determine your fate. If society labels you from birth, then conflict is inevitable. But if that standard is challenged, mutual understanding becomes possible. Ogura shared that their founder was a medical student who turned her focus toward treating ghouls, and that she loved a ghoul. Nishiki realized Ogura was referring to Kimi. Ogura said they would continue operating in secret and hoped that ghouls would eventually gain rights in society. He pledged their support to Goat and the One-Eyed King. When Akira finally woke up, Kaneki told her everything that had happened while she was unconscious. On the rooftop, Amon spoke to Kaneki, noting how strange it was that people who once fought each other were now allies. Kaneki said he never really believed Amon was trying to kill him back then. Amon said the world used to be simple. Ghouls were monsters who ate humans, and that was it. Kaneki responded that his perspective hadn't changed. He would continue fighting for the ghouls. Amon asked why Kaneki, a former human, would go so far for ghouls. Kaneki said it was because ghouls, like him, were isolated and restricted in what they could consume. Some humans were dear to him, but most weren't. He chose to fight not for some idealized future, but for those close to him, and most of them happened to be ghouls. Kaneki asked Amon what he planned to do now. Amon replied that he didn't know yet, but the feelings he had as an investigator still remained. He would do what he believed was right. Amon entered Akira's room, bringing her beloved cat, Maristella. He apologized for not telling her everything. Akira, who had spent years believing Amon was dead, said she didn't need an apology. She wasn't happy or angry, just confused. After Amon left, Toka came to see Akira. They walked outside, and Toka confessed she was the one who killed Akira's father. Akira became angry, but Toka accepted it. They arrived at a park where children played, ghoul children who had lost their families and once stayed in Aogiri Tree. Hinami joined them, and Toka told Akira that Hinami was the last ghoul Kureo Mato had targeted. Hinami, like the children, lost her parents and had no one else. Akira became frustrated, accusing them of trying to make her feel sympathy. Toka said she wasn't asking for sympathy. In fact, she had sympathy for Akira. She admitted their father was kind to them but still killed many people, not just to eat, but for revenge. Toka believed he was weak, unable to move on from the death of their mother, and rejected him for his hatred, even though she wanted to be with him. As they approached the children, Toka said Hinami never held any grudge against Kureo Mato. The children hugged Toka, and she told them to give Akira a hug too. They did. Then Hinami hugged Akira as well. Overwhelmed, Akira began to cry and asked herself, who am I even supposed to hate? In Mutsuki's past, it was revealed that he discovered he was actually a girl and realized that she loved Kaneki. She was confused why Kaneki didn't save her. At this point, Mutsuki was still mentally unstable and being treated in a hospital. Meanwhile, Iwa asked Suzuya what he thought about the one-eyed king. Suzuya replied, saying that the king seemed strong. Iwa then asked if he could kill him. Suzuya responded that Kaneki was his friend and had always been kind to him, but he had orders that were more important than friendship. Chairman Tsuneyoshi recommended Furuta as the next chief of the CCG. However, Furuta warned that the enemy would soon come after CCG HQ. Mogen suggested they concentrate their defenses around HQ, but Furuta disagreed, saying that doing so would play right into the enemy's hands. Furuta reminded them that the CCG had once been in a similar situation against the clowns. Back then, they left each ward as it was and had their strongest investigator guard HQ, Kisho Arima. Kori pointed out that Arima was dead, but Furuta said that's why they needed someone to become the new Arima. He had already chosen someone fit for the role, Suzuya. Suzuya accepted the position. In the 9th ward, a man dressed as a clown gave a balloon to a woman, then it exploded. A series of explosions followed. The clowns didn't care about the lives of others, not even their own, as they used themselves as bombs. CCG forces rushed to the scene, but the explosions continued. In the 18th ward, Mogen wiped out the clowns with a powerful blast. In the 2nd ward, the Quinth squad eliminated the clowns there. The S1 squad also began heading to different wards. Near the bridge by HQ, a large group of clowns was approaching. Suzuya's squad was assigned to handle them. Yuri, observing the situation, suspected someone had to be behind all of this. He spotted someone on a rooftop and went after them. It was Donato, the priest. Donato knocked the Quin K out of Yuri's hands and attacked. Yuri countered by using his ghoul powers to slash Donato's Kagune. Suddenly, Donato vanished and then caught Yuri with a Kagune from above. Suzuya's squad discovered that the clowns they were killing were actually humans being controlled like puppets. Meanwhile, Yuta aka No Face stabbed a man and told Suzuya, "Let's play a game." Suzuya accepted the challenge. Yuta moved swiftly behind him, but Suzuya reacted quickly and slashed Yuta under the chin. Yuta then disguised himself as Shinohara to manipulate Suzuya emotionally. Fortunately, Abra cut Yuta, breaking the illusion. Suzuya apologized, admitting he missed Shinohara too much and was easily manipulated. Back to Donato and Yuri. Donato stabbed Yuri and revealed that it was Yuri's father, Mikito Yuri, who had captured him before. Enraged, Yuri broke free and attacked Donato, who dodged his attacks. Donato told Yuri that all the bad things in his life happened because of his father. Yuri denied this and said he chose to become an investigator himself. Donato then tried to strangle Yuri, saying that all Yuri wanted was recognition and praise, but no matter how much he accomplished, he would never feel satisfied. Donato almost threw Yuri out the window, but Psycho saw this. Donato dragged Yuri and threw him aside. Donato continued provoking Yuri, saying he blamed his father for dying and leaving him alone. Yuri denied this and stabbed Donato, but it turned out to be just a clone. Still, Donato's real body lost a finger and fled. Yuri lost control and began to rampage, asking for help. Psycho arrived and remembered asking Yuri before what would happen if they lost control. Yuri had answered that they would be considered S-rated ghouls and be disposed of, but their frames were designed to prevent that. He reminded his squad that if one of them ever lost control, he wouldn't hesitate to stop them. Now that we have superhuman strength, it's also our responsibility to disappear if needed, he had said. Back in the present, Psycho told Yuri she didn't want someone important to her to die. She attacked him, punching him repeatedly, but Yuri slashed her. Psycho kept fighting and trapped him inside her Psycho cage. Even so, Yuri escaped, and Psycho used all her strength, collapsing the building and knocking him down. Yuri kept attacking her in a rage. He cut her Kagune and stabbed her. Psycho, though wounded, dodged his attack and hugged him, pressing her cute future close to his. She said, "I am looking at you. I love you, Yuri." Yuri finally came to his senses and calmed down. Furuta then visited Mutsuki. Meanwhile, some clowns managed to escape from the bridge. The investigators were shaken to learn that many of those they killed were actually humans. Afterward, Furuta introduced the CCG's new fighting force, with Mutsuki as one of its members. He said the group was called the Agai, and they were the new Quinx squad. Furuta then brought out more clowns and declared, "By their deaths, we will have peace." The Agai then executed the clowns by beheading them. Furuta explained that the clowns had used innocent people as human shields, calling it an unforgivable tactic. He announced that the CCG would now use its full strength to wipe out any remaining clown forces. Their objective: secure all of Tokyo and exterminate all ghouls. Furuta asked for the full cooperation of the investigators, and everyone agreed, excited about the mission ahead.